Our next broadcast premiered in 1935. The program struggled in the ratings until 1940 when it became a national sensation. Within 3 years, it was the top-rated program in America. Few radio shows were more beloved, and few play as well half a century later. It was the brainchild of real-life married couple Jim and Marion Jordan and was broadcast to the nation from WMAQ Chicago. The show entertained America until March of 1956 and continued on NBC's Monitor until 1959. We invite you to join us at 79 Wistful Vista with Fibber McGee and Molly right here on HOJO Radio.
The Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly. Makers of Johnson's Wax and Johnson's Self-Polishing Glow Coat present Fibber McGee and Molly, written by Don Quinn with music by the Kingsmen and Billy Mills Orchestra. The show opens with It's High Time.
Come in right this minute, Jimmy, and don't you dare track dirt and mud across my kitchen floor either. I've just scrubbed it.
Oh, that's too bad, Jimmy. Too bad the game has to end, and too bad your mom is still doing that old-fashioned floor scrubbing. Now, if that floor were protected with Johnson's Self-Polishing Glow Coat, she wouldn't have to worry about your tracking in a little dirt because it would wipe up so easily with a damp cloth. Besides, she wouldn't be so tired and cross and worn out with that tiresome scrubbing. And, of course, someone should tell her that continuous scrubbing finally ruins linoleum, whereas Glow Coat protects it, keeps it new-looking and beautiful, makes it last longer, besides saving her hours of work. Glow Coat is self-polishing, needs no rubbing or buffing. Jimmy, why don't you ask your mother to buy a can of Johnson's Self-Polishing Glow Coat? She'll always thank you for it. This is the time of year when every born angler gets out the box of tackle and the old bamboo for a little living room fishing. And here at 79 Wistful Vista, where the master of the house is reviewing his past glories as a trout trapper, we meet Fibber McGee and Molly.
Boy, look at the whip on that trout rod, will you? It's as springy and supple as the day I won it.
Say, how did you win it? I don't remember.
Sure you do. I won it in that contest.
What contest?
Oh, you know, Molly. Finishing that sentence. I like Barker's dog biscuits because...
Well, why did you like them?
You never give me a chance to find out. You made me quit eating them.
Why, of course I did. It got so every time we had lamb chops, you'd run outdoors and bury the bones.
I thought you said it was because I started chasing cats.
Well, it was both. And what's more, dearie?
Huh? Boy, is this a trout rod. Let's say we go fishing over the weekend.
You go, dearie.
Don't you want to go?
I don't believe so. Standing girdle deep in an icy creek and getting sinkers caught in my hairnet has sort of lost its fascination for me. I'm not as young as we were.
You always used to tell me how you loved to go fishing. You says you and that old boyfriend of yours, Otis Cadwallader, used to go fishing every spring.
Well, that was a long time ago, dearie. But it was fun, though. Otis used to let me row the boat while he fished.
Oh, he let you row the boat?
Sure.
Well, there's a gentleman for you. He didn't want his little snooky-wookie spraining her back hauling in them 2-ounce sunfish.
McGee, I do believe you're still jealous of Otis Cadwallader.
I never know such a thing. And as for him being a fisherman, why, that dough-face couldn't catch an anchovy in a plate of hors d'oeuvres.
Well, everybody but you admires him. You know he started on a shoestring and made a fortune.
Yeah, there's a heel behind every shoestring.
Well, now, just because Otis used to be my boyfriend doesn't mean he wasn't a nice boy.
Ever wish you'd married him instead of me?
Not for a minute, dearie.
Honest?
Cross my heart. I'd rather worry about the grocery bill with you than about paying the yacht with him. You know that.
Yeah, I guess old Otis ain't a bad guy. As millionaires go. And the farther he goes, the better I'll like it. You sure you don't want to go fishing with me?
No, thank you. I got so many things to do around the house that I...
Come in.
Telegram for Mrs. Fibber McGee.
Heavenly days, for me?
Yes, ma'am. Sign here, please.
All right. There you are. Give the lad a quarter, McGee.
Okay, here you are, Bud.
Gee, couldn't you make it a nickel instead?
A nickel?
Yeah, I got some swell wisecracks for guys who only give me a nickel.
Look, Bud, the reason vaudeville never came back is because guys would rather have a nickel and a wisecrack than 2 bits and a smart exit. Now, scram, will you? Who's it from, Molly?
Oh, for goodness sakes, if this isn't a coincidence.
What do you mean, coincidence? Does it say vaudeville is back?
No, sir, it's from Otis Cadwallader.
What's that smug mug sending you telegrams about? Some fortune die and leave him an uncle?
Look, it's from Portland, Oregon.
Well, that shows how ignorant he is. Portland ain't in Oregon. It's in Maine.
Well, now there's another one in Oregon.
Well, it could be the same one. I read in the sports section today that Cleveland is in St. Louis this week. Well, what seems to be flickering your old flame now?
Listen, it says, caught record-breaking salmon and thought you would like to have it in memory of old days.
What?
Am sending it Air Express arriving Tuesday afternoon.
Oh.
Regards to you and Stinky. And it's signed Otis Cadwallader.
Well,
Wasn't that sweet, McGee? Otis always was so sentimental. Why, he even remembered your boyhood nickname.
Yeah, well, I remember his, too, but I'd get pinched if I ever sent it in a telegram.
Say, how big would a record-breaking salmon be, dearie?
Well, depends on what records it broke. If it was high jumping, and it'd be light and thin. If it was a shot putting or
Oh,
wrestling...
now stop clowning.
well.
Would it be 20 pounds, 50 pounds, or 100 pounds?
I don't know, 40, 45 pounds, I guess. What are we going to do with all that fish?
Well, we can eat what we want and give the rest to our friends. He's sending it Air Express, so it'll be nice and fresh.
Air Express, eh? That was the way the stork brought Otis, too, and look how fresh he stayed.
Go call the airport and see what time the afternoon plane gets in here.
Oh, okay. Give me the phone.
Here.
Thanks. Hello, operator. Give me the wistful biscuit. Oh, is that you, Mert? How's every little thing, Mert? Says, eh? What's that, Mert? You're married, sister. Honest? 3 of them, eh?
Oh,
Boy, that's terrific.
oh, my.
Well, what hospital you say?
Heavenly days, McGee, you don't
Imagine
mean
that, Molly. Mert's sister was driving past the hospital this morning and had 3 blowouts in one block. Hey, Mert, what time's the afternoon plane come in? Oh, thanks, Mert. 5:52, Molly.
Fine. Now, look, here's what we'll do. We'll give a salmon dinner for all our friends.
Oh, I don't want
Now,
that.
start calling people up and invite them. First, Mrs. Uppington.
Yeah, but look, how are we
And then
gonna...
Mr. Wilcox and Mr. Mills and the Wimples
Who
and
wants
the old
these?
timers.
over and get some more details about this affair, Mrs. McGee. I didn't realize you were so interested in needlework.
Needlework? This has nothing to do with needlework, Abigail.
But Mr. McGee said over the telephone that we were going to sew and sew and sew until...
I did not, Uppy. I said some old so-and-so was sending us a fish. And we couldn't eat it all ourselves.
Well, really, I'm afraid, Mr. McGee, you don't enunciate very clearly.
It's a good thing I don't, or they'd be taking our phone out.
McGee's a little jealous, Mrs. Uppington. The man who's sending us this big salmon is an old flame of mine.
Oh, my. Well, there must be a little spark of love still burning.
Yes.
That big clinker keeps smoldering. He's going to make an awful ash of himself.
Now, McGee, just because you never caught a record-breaking fish...
I'm not so sure he did either. I'll bet he bought a dozen cans of salmon and reconstructed it.
Oh, tell me, Mrs. McGee, who is this fascinating chap?
Fascinating my eye. He's got all the charm and personality of leftover spaghetti with meatballs.
Well, his name is Otis Cadwallader, Abigail, and he used to...
My dear, not the Otis Cadwallader, the millionaire sportsman?
What do you mean, sportsman? That guy won't even play bridge unless him and his partner can wear headphones.
Now, McGee, you're really exaggerating there. He and his brother wanted to hear Bob Hope that night.
So we, the people, lost $22.
Say, how did you know about Mr. Cadwallader, Abigail?
Oh, my dear, I'm constantly reading about him in the fashionable magazines. Oh, is he really as handsome as his photograph?
Well, he's pretty good looking. Wouldn't you say so, dearie?
Not even if I thought so. Not even if I thought so. And I don't think so.
Oh, Mrs. McGee, you unfortunate girl, you.
What? Why, Abigail?
Oh, to think that you once had Otis Cadwallader in your grasp, and you passed him up for such a little...
Such a little what?
My, such a little time before dinner. I must be going. Goodbye.
Cadwallader and his salmon. Got me talking like a salmon. Believe me, if I was still interested in a gal that had married somebody else, I'd send her something more romantic than a fish.
Say, I never thought of it that way, McGee. It is kind of silly, isn't it?
I'll say it is. What'd he woo you with? Bouquets of herring and a 10-pound box of Whitman sardines?
Well, you and he were about even, dearie.
Huh?
Your idea of a beautiful courtship was a ride on the roller coaster and 5 boxes of Cracker Jacks.
That was quite a sacrifice for me. The roller coaster always made me sick.
Why, of course it did. You ate all the Cracker Jacks.
Well, shucks, how can I?
Come in.
Hello, kid. What's all this about a fish dinner tonight?
That's right, old-timer. We're getting the big fish from Oregon this evening. Coming by air.
Oh, flying fish, eh?
No, it's a salmon.
Oh. Well, what time we march up to the trough tonight, daughter?
Well, now, that's not a very elegant way to express it, Mr. Oldtimer, but the fish will be here about 6, so we'll eat about 6:30. You'll be here?
Oh, sure will, daughter. Unless some unforeseen circumstance comes up, and I don't know what it'd be unless my cousin Clarence comes in from Cincinnati. And he might, because he wired me to get him a date for the night, and only one I could get with is my gal's sister, and only she won't go out unless my gal goes too, and I wouldn't trust Cousin Clarence with my gal, so I guess I better go along and keep an eye on her. Sorry, kid. An unforeseen circumstance has just come up. Thanks.
Why, that old twerp, him and his date. He either ought to grow up or give up.
Look, McGee, did you ask Mr. Wilcox and Billy Mills to this dinner?
Yep. Wilcox will be here for sure, I think, and Billy will...
Hey, Molly.
Yes, Mr. Wilcox.
Let me see that trout we're having for dinner.
It's not a trout, Harlow. It's a salmon.
Oh, I thought it was a trout.
Well, why'd you want to see it, Mr. Wilcox?
Well, I was going to tell you the best way to cook trout.
Oh, yeah? You were going to tell her how to cook. You tell him how to sell wax then, Molly.
Well, now, don't think I couldn't.
Could you really?
Why, certainly I could. Look, Mr. Wilcox, Every woman wants to be beautiful.
Yes?
So point out how much more time and money she'll have for facials and manicures when Johnson's Wax cuts down her housework and gives her more leisure and a bigger budget. You see?
If they get more exercise, they wouldn't have such a big butt. Oh. Oh, you mean budget.
Oh. Go on, Molly.
Shall I go on? Well, then, tell them how much more fun it is to entertain when their house or apartment is shining and beautiful and easy to clean. Mm-hmm. And how windowsills and lampshades and everything are protected against wear and dirt and dampness. That's how I'd sell Johnson's Wax.
Yeah. Now, you tell us how to cook a fish.
Well, look. You take your trout.
It isn't a trout, it's a salmon.
But if it was a trout, you'd simply roll it in cornmeal.
At it ain't a trout.
I know, but if it was...
Look, Mr. Wilcox, when we have salmon, it's no use telling us how to cook trout.
Yeah.
Like when we want Johnson's Wax, it's no use trying to sell us something else.
That's what I wanted to hear you say. Never accept a substitute when you want the real thing. Well, that ends today's lesson, folks. See you tonight.
That guy should ought to have been a jockey, Molly. He rides a plug harder than Eddie Arcaro.
I don't even believe he knows how to cook. That was just an excuse to talk about wax.
I know, but let us remember.
Oh, lettuce. That's what I've been trying to think of.
Huh?
McGee, run down to the grocery store and get me a head of lettuce.
Oh, call him up and ask him to deliver it.
No, you go get it. It'll give you an excuse to wear your new hat. Huh?
Oh, that's right. Here, let me put it on. How's it look?
Oh, wonderful. It looks just like Anthony Eden.
Well, better. I got more. Hey.
Oh, heavenly days, what was that?
Kids must be playing baseball next door again. Look, here's the ball. I'll fix them.
Now, take it easy, dear.
You wait. I'll teach them kids they can't do...
Hi, mister.
Oh, hello there, little girl.
Did you see anything of a baseball, mister? Did you,
What do you mean, did I see anything of a baseball? You just busted our window with it.
I know it. Willie Took said girls didn't know how to play baseball, so I took his bat, and gee, Davy, did I hunt that old apple right out of the pipe.
That's neither here nor there, sis. Who's going to pay for that window?
You are, I betcha.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, why should I pay for it?
When we paid for the baseball, you ought to pay for the window.
I see. Why don't I buy you kids a new ball, too, and some uniforms and new caps and masks and catcher's mitts and all stuff like that there?
Gee, that'd be wonderful, mister. When you going to do it? When you going to do it? When
Dad, rather, I'm not going to do it. I just told you.
Oh, hey, Mr. McGee, you got a new hat.
Oh, yeah. You like it?
Peachy. You look dandy in a hat like that.
Oh, thanks, sis. I'm glad you like it. Here, take your baseball. Be a little more careful after this.
All righty. Thank you, mister. I knew you wouldn't be mean about it. I bet on account of you look so nice in that hat.
You really think so, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Here's 50 cents for a new ball, too.
Gee, you're just wonderful, mister. And I didn't know you were so good looking until I saw you in that expensive new hat.
Oh, it ain't so expensive, sis. It's the way I wear it.
Oh.
Here's a couple of bucks for your team. Get a couple of gloves.
Gee, thank you, mister. Wait till I tell the kids. We'll make you mascot. We need a new one anyway.
You do?
Mm-hmm. The dog catcher got the last one.
Oh.
Well, thanks ever so much, mister. And I'm sorry it isn't wintertime so we could throw snowballs at your new hat because we wouldn't do it, I bet you.
Well, that's mighty decent of you, sis.
Well, it's a mighty decent hat, mister. Is it a fedora?
No, it's a Homburg.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Homburg.
I'm hungry.
The King's Men sing Much Much.
Was there I learned reading and writing, at brackets where I went to school. Was there I learned howling and fighting, from the schoolmaster, Mr. O'Toole. Him and me, we had many a scrimmage, and devil the copy I wrote. There's never a gossoon in the village. God's bread on the tail of me. Mush, 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 toodle-lie-a-dee. Mush, 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 toodle-lie. And there's never a gossoon in the village. God's bread on the tail of me coat. Was there that I learned all me courting. Oh, the lessons I took in the yard. Till Cupid the devil was sporting. And arrows go straight through me heart. Miss O'Connor, she lived earnestly. And tender lines to her I wrote. If you dare say a hard word again her, I'll tread on the tail of your mush, 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 toodle-lie-a-dee. Mush, 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 toodle-lie. If you dare say a hard word again her, I'll tread on the tail of your coat.
Then a blackguard named Mickey Maloney came and stole her affection away. He had money and I hadn't any, so I sent him a challenge next day. In the AM we met in Killarney, the Shannon we crossed in a boat, and I lathered him with me shillelagh, for he trod on the tail of me mush, 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 toodle-lie-a-dee. Sing mush, 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 toodle-lie-a, and I lathered him with me shillelagh, for he trod on the tail of me coat.
Me fame went abroad through the nation. The people came flocking to see, and they exclaimed without hesitation, "You're a fighting man, Mr. McGee." I've wiped out the Finnegan faction. I've sunk all the Murphys afloat. If you're in for a row or a ruction, just tread on the tail of me, mush, 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 toodle-lie-a-dee. Sing mush, 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 toodle-lie. If you're in for a row or a ruction, just tread on the tail of me, coat.
Hey, Fibber, Molly, when do we eat?
Yeah, what about this fish?
Now, take it easy, everybody. We just phoned the airport, and they says the plane was slightly delayed on account of rain.
Oh, good heavens. What's a little rain to a salmon?
Excuse me, McGee. May I have a word with you?
Why, sure, Gildersleeve. Just step over here for a minute. Hey, Molly, you better put out some more olives and potato chips. This mob's getting unruly.
All right, dear.
What you want, Gildersleeve? Want to give me a cigar or something?
No. I want to give you a little advice.
Huh?
The next time you invite people to a 6:30 fish dinner, have it at 6:30, will you? By George, here it is 7:15, and I'm so hungry that I...
Now. Take it easy, Crocky.
Well...
We can't help it if the fish don't get here on time.
I won't take it easy. I'm hungry, and when I'm hungry, I don't feel good. I've got a half a mind to walk out of here and go to a restaurant.
You had half a mind, you'd sit down and relax, you big glutton.
Now, look here, McGee. Isn't it enough that you invite me out here and starve me without insulting... Oh, there, Mrs. McGee.
Say, what goes on here?
This, quote, guest, unquote, of ours is Ellie Bay aching about the delay.
Well...
Oh, for goodness sakes, Mr. Gildersleeve, it won't be much longer. Have some more olives.
I don't want any more olives. Eating so many now, I feel like a pinball game.
Don't worry, you ain't any pinball game. You can win with one of those.
Oh! That settles it. I'm going home.
Okay, go on home then, you big whiner.
Why, you inhospitable little henhouse Hibernian.
What do you mean, henhouse Hibernian?
Shanty Irish, but he cleaned it up. Here, boys, I don't want to.
I'll bet that's the fish.
Goody, I'll run up, turn on the oven, little chum.
No, the oven is already hot, Mr. Gildersleeve. Come on, McGee, let's go to the door.
Don't cry.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hi, Wimple.
Well, heavenly days. We thought you were the fish. Won't you come in and sit down, Mr. Wimple?
Oh, I'm sorry, folks, but I just can't.
Oh. Oh, you can't, Mr. Wimple.
No, I'm terribly sorry. Mrs. Wimple and I had intended to come, but at the last minute she changed our minds.
Well, as long as you're here, you might as well stay, Wimple. She wouldn't care, would she?
Oh, yes, he would, Mr. McGee. She'd just fly into one of her tantrums, I'm afraid.
Oh. Well, what does she do in her tantrums, Mr. Wimple?
Oh, she just stands there and stamps her foot at me.
Well, that ain't so fearful, is it?
It wouldn't be if I could only roll out of the way quicker. Well, I'm sorry if I've discommoded you, Mrs. McGee, but Mrs. Wimple and I have decided to spend a quiet evening at home.
A quiet evening, Wimple?
Yes. My wife is going to read to me.
Well, now, isn't that sweet? What does she read to you, Mr. Wimple?
Oh, the usual thing. The Riot Act. Good night.
My goodness, dearie, what's delaying that salmon?
I don't know. They says as soon as the plane landed, they were going to rush it right over here by motorcycle. Maybe I better call up the airport again.
Oh, look, McGee, there it is. It's a messenger with a big package.
Hot dog. Hey, everybody. It's here.
Here it is.
Give me that package, Bud. Thanks.
Unwrap it quick, McGee. We're all starved.
Hey, look.
What is it, McGee?
Let me see it, McGee. Well, heavenly day.
Hey, look, folks. It's stuff.
Oh, my goodness. Stuffed and mounted on a board.
Hey, quiet, everybody. Wait a minute. Here's a brass plate on it.
What does it say, dearie?
It says, to my schoolgirl sweetheart, Molly McGee. Every time you look at this, please think of me. Signed Otis Cadwallader.
Do you ever have spring fever? Ever say to yourself, my, but I feel so lazy today? Don't let it worry you if you do. You've got lots of company, including yours truly. Work is a great thing for everybody. Sometimes it's a lifesaver. But unnecessary work is, well, it's just unnecessary. Take your floors, for example. You could go on scrubbing your linoleum floors all your life, and what would it get you? Well, an aching back and red hand for yourself and ruined linoleum in the bargain. So, you wisely protect your floors with Johnson's self-polishing glow coat, saving yourself unnecessary work, keeping your linoleum always bright and shining, and making it last longer. And with the hours of time you save with glow coat, you can do important things that perhaps you've had to neglect. Reading, playing with your children, seeing your friends. Johnson's glow coat saves you work because it is self-polishing, needs no rubbing or buffing. Look for the familiar red and yellow glow coat package at your dealer.
Ladies and gentlemen, United States savings bonds are now on sale in post offices and banks everywhere. Buy as many as you can and be assured that your money is as safe as the nation itself. The country's banking on us, so let's bank on the country.
And if you're one of our neighbors in Canada, buy war savings certificates.
Good night.
Good night, all.
This is Harlow Wilcox, speaking for the makers of Johnson's Wax Finishes for home and for industry. Inviting you to be with us again next Tuesday night. Good night.
Ladies, before you do any painting or enameling, I want you to investigate a wonderful new Johnson product. A new kind of enamel that actually contains wax. It's called Johnson's Wax Enamel, and it comes in 19 stunning modern colors, all selected by prominent decorators. Even the names of some of these new colors are exciting. Daffodil yellow, Dresden blue, Cherokee red, jade green. Wax enamel has 3 very important advantages. The wax gives it a smooth finish, a beautiful satiny wax luster, gives it extra protection against wear, and makes it easier to clean. Just try Johnson's Wax Enamel on old furniture, your bathroom or kitchen walls. It's easy to brush on, and one coat nearly always covers. Ask your dealer for a Wax Enamel color chart free. See him tomorrow. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
You're listening to HOJO Radio. More classic old-time radio coming your way next.
The Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly.
makers of Johnson's Wax and Johnson's Self-Polishing Glow Coat present Fibber McGee and Molly, written by Don Quinn, with music by the King's Men and Billy Mills Orchestra. The show opens with Love Is. I wonder how many of you ladies were in the midst of your spring house cleaning today. I'd like to say a few words, especially for your benefit, on the subject of protective housekeeping. That's a very important subject because it offers you a chance to save work and to save money. Let me explain just what I mean by protective housekeeping. Instead of keeping your floors, furniture, and woodwork clean during the year by scrubbing and dusting, you protect them against dirt and against wear with a tough coat of Johnson's paste or liquid wax. Then that coat of wax wards off scratches and dirt, makes cleaning and dusting much easier throughout the year, and makes annual spring house cleaning a much simpler affair. Dust and dirt cannot cling to a smooth, wax-polished surface. Fingerprints are quickly wiped away. Traffic areas on floors can be touched up without re-waxing the entire floor. When you consider that Johnson's Wax adds a rich glow of beauty to floors, furniture, and woodwork, that it has 100 extra labor-saving uses, then you should certainly try protective housekeeping with Johnson's Wax in your home. Insist on the genuine Johnson's Wax. Ever throw a kiss to a beautiful girl? Unsatisfactory, wasn't it? So is a birthday without a birthday cake. And our hero is not the man to see his life partner neglected in this way. So, here at 79 Wistful Vista, cookbook in hand and a determined gleam in his eye, while his spouse stands by full of love and skepticism, we find Fibber McGee and Molly.
Oh, now, McGee, please, don't go to all that trouble. Put that cookbook down.
What?
If you must have a birthday cake for me, go out and buy one.
No, sirree. I'm going to bake this with my own ever-loving hands. This is going to be a cake like you never flung a fang into.
I'll bet it isn't that. What kind of a cake's it going to be, dearie?
Oh, shucks, I can't tell you that. It's going to be a surprise. Now, you go on in the other room and read a book or something.
Oh, let me watch it.
Ah, you'll keep trying to tell me how to do things.
No, I won't, really.
Okay, then. Sit down and be quiet. Don't smoke till you're speaking to her. Just keep quiet. Now, let's see. Budget cakes, sponge cakes, angel food cakes, upside-down cakes, party cake. Ah, party cakes.
Party cake, baker's man.
Now, remember your promise.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Page 24. Oh, here we are. 6 eggs, separated. Hey, Molly, where's the eggs?
In the refrigerator.
Why, that's no place to keep eggs. Takes twice as long to fry them when they're cold.
I never thought of that. I'll keep them in the oven after this, dearie.
Let's see now. Eggs, milk, butter, horseradish. That'll do, I guess. Oh, let's see. I gotta get this stuff.
Heavenly days, you won't need all those pots and pans, will you?
Look, now, you cook your way and I'll cook my way. Here, you hold 3 eggs and I'll put 3 of them back here on the shelf.
But what's the idea?
What's the idea? The recipe says to separate 6 eggs. Okay, there's a cup and a half of sugar, 4 cups of shifted cake flour, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. No pepper. 2 squares of chocolate. Okay. Give me them eggs again. I guess they've been separated long enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 5. Boy, that's a lot of eggs. I should have bought you a fur coat. It would have been cheaper. Me. Where's the egg beater?
Right there in the drawer, right in front of you. Though I always use a fork myself.
Yeah, that's the trouble with you women. Some unsung genius spends his lifetime inventing the egg beater to save you trouble, and what do? Ignore it and use a fork.
Well, now listen, you men are no better.
What you mean?
You spend your young manhood looking for a good cook to marry and then mess around the kitchen yourself. Here, what are you doing?
Well, I'm squirting a little sewing machine oil on this egg beater.
Dear.
It's kind of stiff.
But listen, your cake will taste like oil.
Oh, no, it won't. I took care of that. I mixed a little vanilla in with that oil. Yeah, that's better. Oh, boys.
Come in.
Oh, dear.
Hello there, kids. How you fix for postage stamps?
I don't know, old-timer. How many you want?
Don't want any. I'm selling them. 2-cent stamps for 1 cent. Today only.
Heavenly days, how on earth can you do that?
Forgot to mail my Christmas cards this year, daughter. Just found them and soaked the stamps off. How many you want? For every 50 you buy, I throw in a little bottle of glue. Hey, what you doing there, Johnny?
Well, it's my birthday, Mr. Oldtimer. He's baking me a cake.
He is, eh? You know how to cook, Johnny?
Well, we'll soon know.
What do you mean, do I know how to cook? Sure, I know how to cook. I'm not only a cook, I was the greatest vegetable and fruit man in Peoria at one time.
I never knew that, McGee.
Well, I've been covering it up. That's why. I wrecked my career. I was a failure.
How's that, Johnny? It's any of my business, which it ain't, but I'm interested, and when a feller's interested, you can forgive a certain inquisitiveness because...
Okay, I'll tell you. I was trying to raise a seedless watermelon. And I done it, too. And that's what finished me.
Oh, well, if you succeeded, why did it finish you?
Caused a terrific demand for seedless watermelons, and I couldn't fill it.
Why not?
I couldn't grow them.
Why not?
No seeds.
Well, as I was saying, one feller says to t'other feller, say, he says.
Yes, sir, old-timer. I had such a knack with flowers and vegetables, I could even bring them back to life long after they'd wilted. Why, I'd take an old wrinkled beet and give it the McGee treatment, and presto, back from the dead. Dead beat McGee, I was known as.
Say, how about my cake?
Dead beat McGee, the ding-dong daddy of the dirt doctors, drudging in the ditches from dawn to dusk over discolored, decrepit, and darn near defunct daisies, dogwood, and deodars, dazzling doubters with my debonair displays of dilly-dallies, daffy daffodils, and dandy dandelions discovered and developed by Dead beat McGee, the diggity-digger and daddy dude from down on the Delta and deep in Dixie, but shucks, I sound like a dad-ratted pixie. Let's see. Shift flour and salt together and fold into the oat mixture. Hey, you know where my tin snips are?
What on earth you want tin snips for?
I got to cut down a teaspoon. It says here to put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. To make 1/4 of a teaspoon.
Don't be silly. Just fill it 1/4 full.
Huh? Oh, say, I could do that, couldn't I?
You know it was silly all the time.
Yeah, those bowlers from Peoria left it. Baby, is this going to be a cake?
I'll bet it'll be a cake. I'll bet this'll make Prudence Penny feel like a nickel.
I would have made you upside-down cake, but I don't have much luck with those. The blood keeps rushing to my head. Go see who that is at the front door, will you, Molly? I got to finish mixing this batter.
All right, dearie, and I hope it gets to first base.
Huh? Oh.
I'm coming.
Oh, can he bake a birthday cake? Fibber boy. Can he bake a birthday cake? Charming Fibber. He can bake a birthday cake that'll make your molars ache, but he's a young thing and cannot leave his mother.
Oh, McGee, it's Mrs. Uppington, and she wants to...
Oh, what is that old fuck?
McGee, I said it's Mrs. Uppington, and she...
Tell the old moose I don't... Oh! Hi, Uppy.
Good day, Mr. McGee.
Good day.
May I ask what you imagine you're concocting there?
Well, it's a cake for me, Abigail. This is my birthday.
Oh, really? Well, congratulations, my dear. I won't ask which one it is because I know.
Oh, yeah? Well, which one?
Her last one, if she eats any of that cake.
Oh, I don't know, Uppy. I swing a pretty nasty casserole when I put my mind to it.
Really?
Yeah, betcha. Let me know when your next birthday limps around, and I'll whip you up a cake, too. Only give me plenty of notice.
Why, Mr. McGee?
Well, you don't think we could get enough candles right here in town on short notice?
Well, I must say, Mr. McGee...
Yes, that's right. That was a very bad insinuation, dearie. I'm sure Abigail isn't many years older than I am. Though I was a little flower maiden at your wedding, remember, Abigail?
Oh, indeed I do, my dear. Indeed I do. Even though I was still a slip of a girl at the time, I remember asking an usher to get you a chair. You looked so tired.
Well, I was just tired from laughing so hard.
What was the joke?
Otis Cadwallader, you know.
Oh, that mug.
Otis was one of the little boys who was carrying the train of Abigail's wedding dress, and he had it a little too high, and he whispered that the bride was bow-legged. Not that I ever believed it, Abigail.
Well, I should hope
until I saw you in your job purse.
Please, Mrs. McGee, I think the discussion of my nuptials has gone far enough.
Yes, me too, girls. We sure squeezed that subject dry. Let's get back to birthdays. You want me to bake a cake for your birthday, too?
Thank you, no, Miss McGee. I have all my special pastry made by an expensive caterer.
Oh.
My last birthday cake cost me $75.
Oh, not really. Did you demand an itemized bill, Abigail?
Itemized?
Yeah, it was probably $5 for the cake and $70 hush money.
Really, Mr. McGee? Well, I have never been snubbed like this in all my life.
Honest, Abigail? You ought to walk down the street in San Diego some night when the fleet's in. Poor Abigail.
Yeah.
Well, how are you doing with your cake?
Well, it's coming along swell, though it's kind of tricky folding these egg whites. They won't hold a crease. Hey, I haven't got enough sugar.
No, I don't.
Dad, rat it, can't a guy bake a cake in peace around here? Come in. Why don't people...
Oh, good day, Mr. Wimple.
How do you do? May I step in a moment out of the wet?
Oh, is it raining?
No, I've been crying.
You poor man. Come right in. What's the matter?
It's my wife.
Oh.
We had a terrible argument this morning, and I'm afraid I lost my temper.
Oh.
I actually shook my fist at her.
You did, eh? Was she scared?
Fortunately, she didn't see me.
You know, I think you're just too meek, Mr. Wimple. You should stand up for your rights. A woman has no respect for a man she can dominate.
Oh, I know that, Mrs. McGee. And I really went round and round with her once.
Did it do any good, Wimple?
Yes, for a while. But as soon as I got out of the hospital, it started all over again. It's really discouraging.
Oh. Well, what can we do for you, Mr. Wimple?
I just wondered if you had a small piece of raw beefsteak I could borrow. My wife has a black eye.
What? A black eye? Why, Wimple, you mean you actually...
Oh, no, Mr. McGee. She tried to chase a dog out of our yard and stepped on the rake. Flew up and hit her in the eye.
Oh, well, that's too bad, but I'm sorry we haven't got a bit of raw beefsteak in the house.
Personally, I never thought much of that beefsteak treatment for black eyes anyway, Wimple.
Oh, I didn't want it for her eye, Mr. McGee.
Huh?
I was going to give it to that dog, bless his heart.
Well, poor Mrs. Wimple, that must have been a very painful experience.
No, I don't know. It's probably the only time in her life an old rake ever made a pass at her. Must have been quite a...
Hello, folks. What's it? Oh, say, what goes on?
Molly's birthday, Harlow. Harlow. I'm running up a cake.
Really? Well, many happy returns,
Well,
Molly.
thank you, Mr. Wilcox, and the balance of the day to yourself.
Here, let me give you a hand with that cake, Fibber.
No, let go, Harlow. I know it's cake. Look out.
Oh, now, Mr. Wilcox, see what you boys did. Spilled a big gob of batter on my linoleum.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right, Molly. It's a simple matter to wipe it up with a damp cloth. That is, if your linoleum is protected with...
We know. Johnson's self-polishing glow coat. And you spilled that stuff on purpose so you could drag in a sales talk.
The idea is if you had to prove to me, of all people, how Johnson's glow coat protects the linoleum.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I should have known I wouldn't have to tell you how it's so easy to apply and shines itself as it dries and how it brings out the original luster and beauty of the pattern. Why, what was I thinking of anyway?
Aren't you ashamed?
Yes, I feel pretty bad.
Well, just for that, I won't give you a piece of this birthday cake when it's done.
Really?
No.
Oh, now I do feel bad. Oh, that's awful. No cake. I guess that'll teach me a lesson. Well, happy birthday, Molly. No cake.
Killing himself. Trouble with that guy is he's got a single-track mind. And it's full of freight cars loaded with Johnson's wax. Well, how about that sugar?
Well, I'll go right away, dearie.
No. Now, wait a minute. It's your birthday, and you're not supposed to do anything. I'll get it. Here, untie this apron. Thanks. I'll be back in just a minute. Now, run across the... Hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar until tomorrow?
Hi, mister. What's cooking? What?
Oh, hi, sis. Is your mother home?
Sure she is, I betcha.
May I see her a minute?
No.
Huh?
I said no.
What do you mean, no? You tell your mother I want to see her, will you?
You can see her, mister.
Now, don't be obstinate, sis.
I'm not being obstinate, I betcha. I'm being nice.
Well, what's so nice about not letting me see your mother?
She's taking a bath.
Well, why didn't you say so?
Well, you didn't ask me.
Well, look, maybe you can handle this deal yourself. How's about the loan of a cup of sugar, sis?
Well, I'm for graduated.
You mean granulated? I says you mean granulated. Graduated means when you get out of school.
I know it. I bought this sugar this afternoon on the way home.
Well, how about it, sis?
Mister, I told you once you can't see her. She's taking the bath, don't you remember?
I'm talking about a cup of sugar. Forget your mother.
I will not. She never forgets me.
I didn't mean that you should. Look, let's start over.
All righty.
Hi, sis. Can I borrow a cup of sugar?
That isn't the way you did it before. You asked if you could see my mother.
Well, I'm doing it different this time. All I want is a cup of sugar.
What you gonna do with it?
Oh, I'm baking a cake.
Oh. No fooling, mister. What do you want with it?
I told you I'm baking a cake. It's my wife's birthday.
Can you really cook, mister? Can you really?
Certainly I can cook. Come over and see the cake in a couple of hours. I'll cut you a slice.
Gee, I wish I had a slice of it now, I betcha.
Why?
You know. Wait here and I'll go get you some sugar, mister.
The King's Men sing Three Blind Mice.
3 blind mice, 3 little innocent mice.
Number 1 is thin.
Number 2 is fat.
Number 3 so fierce he scares the cat. I'm number 1. Number 2.
Number 3. 3 brave mice. 3 hungry mice. 3 hungry mice. They lived in a farmhouse out in the sticks with a farmer and his little old wife.
The thin little mouse had a very long nose to sniff the slightest breeze.
One day he sniffed with his very long nose and shouted,
I smell cheese.
The fat little mouse took hold of his tail.
The thin one led the way.
The fierce little mouse brought up the rear to chase the cat away.
3 hungry mice, 3 hungry mice, scampering off to find the cheese and cut themselves a slice. Pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, whoa! 3 happy mice, 3 happy mice. They nibbled and nibbled and nibbled some more, till one by one they lay down on the floor and all fell asleep and began to snore. 3 sleepy mice. Oh, the farmer's wife, sneaking down the hall with a carving knife. 3 little mice too full to run away, lost their little tails before you can say. 3 blind mice, 3 sorry mice.
The thin little mouse is thinner now.
The fat one became a rat.
And the fierce little mouse is just a smile on the face of the old tomcat.
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. That is the end of the 3 little tales of the 3 blind mice.
Well, I must say, McGee, that cake looks very nice.
Oh, wait till you taste it. It'll be ready to eat as soon as I finish squirting happy birthday to Molly onto it. D-A-Y-M-O-L... You don't mind if I just call you Moll, do you? I started too big and I ain't got room on here for Molly.
Oh, that's all right, dearie. I think it looks beautiful. Shall I get the candles?
No, I'll get them. Where are they?
In the hall closet.
Okay, you get them.
All right, I won't get many either.
Huh?
I don't...
Ma'am?
I'm sorry. I don't want to be like the girl who said she was 21, and when they brought home the cake, it looked like a prairie fire.
That gag will never be 21 again either. Oh, can he bake a birthday cake, Fibber boy, Fibber boy? Can he bake a birthday cake, charming Fibber? He can mix a batter up into a nifty hunk of stuff, but
Here's the candles, dearie.
What?
Here they are. Here's the candles.
What? You mean you opened that hall closet without a... I don't believe it. Let me go take a look. You start putting the candles on the cake.
All right, dearie. I'll do that. Oh, dear. Who's that now? Come in.
Ah, there, Mrs. McGee. Good day.
Oh, hello, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Well, I see you've been baking yourself a cake. Looks delicious.
Oh, I didn't bake it, Mr. Gildersleeve. McGee did it.
What? Why, that... He did? Why, that little cake cooker. Well, I must congratulate the little rascal. Where is he?
Well, he just went in the other room to check up on the...
checking up, eh? I hope he survived it. So he baked this cake, did he? Well, I see it's a birthday cake for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congratulations, my dear.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gildersleeve.
My goodness, this is an occasion. I'll just have to have a piece of this cake in honor of your birthday, Mrs. McGee.
Oh, now you better wait for McGee, Mr. Gildersleeve. He might be annoyed if...
Oh, my little chum wouldn't begrudge me a little piece of cake. Come now, my dear. Hand me a knife. Thank you. Well, it cuts nicely, doesn't it? Care for some yourself?
No, thank you. Not now. I'll wait till
Oh,
McGee.
hi, Gildersleeve.
Hello, McGee. Why?
He thought you wouldn't mind his taking a piece of your cake, dearie.
Well, of all the dad-ratted nerve. I baked that cake for my little wife, Gildersleeve. You got a lot of brass barging in here and hogging the first piece. Why?
Now, look here, McGee. Whose birthday is this, yours or your wife?
Well, it was my cake, and you didn't have any right to...
Oh, now forget it, McGee. After all, it is my birthday, and I don't want any bickering.
Well, shucks, if this big lard bucket had the manners of a well-bred hyena, he'd have known better than to come barging... Hey, look at Throckmorton. He's turning purple.
Oh! Heavenly days. What's the matter, Mr. Gildersleeve?
Ah, don't fuss about him, Molly. He'll do anything to attract attention. Quit clowning, you big ape.
No, McGee, he's not clowning. There's something the matter with him. He's pointing to his throat, see?
Oh, do you suppose... Hey, Gildersleeve, what's the matter?
Oh, what did you put in that cake, you little criminal? I swallowed something. Get me a doctor, quick!
Oh, my gosh, she did it. Quick, Molly, call an ambulance. We got to get him to a hospital. Hurry up.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Take it easy now. He just swallowed a nutshell or a cork out of the vanilla bottle or something.
Do something quick, McGee. Maybe it was ground glass.
Hurry up, Molly. Call an ambulance. This is serious. Go on. Here, Gildersleeve. Lie down here on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Loosen your collar and tie.
Yeah.
Now, take it easy.
Oh, what was it, McGee? What did I eat?
Now, don't worry, Gildersleeve. You'll be all right.
Go faster, driver. We'll have you in the hospital in 3 minutes, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Oh.
Maybe this will teach you not to make a pig of yourself, Frocky.
I know. I'm sorry, McGee, and I certainly appreciate all the trouble you're going to save me, little chum.
What do you mean, save you? I baked a diamond ring in that cake for Molly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh.
Take it up, driver. Save you.
Fibber and Molly will be back in just a moment. You know, every now and then it's a good idea to get back to fundamentals. The other day, a lady asked me, why does Johnson's self-polishing glow coat make linoleum last longer? That's certainly a fundamental question and deserves an informative answer. Here it is. In the old days, women used to scrub their linoleum floors at least once a week in an effort to keep them clean. Now, every linoleum manufacturer will tell you that continual scrubbing actually ruins linoleum. It softens the finish and finally makes it warp and split. In the meantime, the colors fade. Johnson's Glow Coat eliminates this continual scrubbing. It actually covers the linoleum surface with a hard coat that protects it against scratches and scuffing feet and preserves the colors bright and fresh. Many women tell us that Glow Coat makes their linoleum last 6 times longer than when it was unprotected. And besides this protection and beauty, Johnson's Glow Coat saves hours of work because it is self-polishing, needs no rubbing or buffing whatsoever. If you don't have a supply of Johnson's Glow Coat on hand, be sure and add it to your next shopping list.
Well, McGee, this should teach you a lesson to stay out of the kitchen. You know, it's no place for a man.
Is that so? Well, don't forget to remember the highest paid cooks in the world are men.
Why, of course they are.
Betcha.
Women are too smart to spend 12 hours a day over a hot stove.
Huh? Oh, good night.
Good night, all.
This is Harlow Wilcox, speaking for the makers of Johnson's Wax Finishes for the home and for industry, inviting you to be with us again next Tuesday night. Good night.
George, I'm getting ashamed of the looks of our car. I just won't ride in it till you get it polished.
Now, that might be serious if it weren't so easy to clean and wax polish a car these days. Now that we have Johnson's Car New, the sensational auto polish that both cleans and wax polishes in one application. If you're getting a little ashamed of the looks of your car, just stop at your dealers, buy a can of Car New, and have the fun of riding in a new-looking car again. Ask for Johnson's Car New, C-A-R-N-U. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Our next broadcast is a science fiction drama series that was broadcast from April 24th, 1955 to January 9th, 1958 in various time slots on NBC. Known for its high production values and adapting stories from the leading American authors of the era, it has been described as one of the finest offerings of American radio drama and one of the best science fiction series in any form and medium. We present to you X-1 on HOJO Radio.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in 1,000,000 could-be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction, presents X-1. Tonight's story, Courtesy. This is the story of the second expedition to the planet of Landro. I'm recording it for any future expeditions which might land on this God-forsaken sphere, in the hope that they may learn from our tragic example. As I write, there are 2 of us left. 2 out of an original complement of 180 men. One of us, myself, will be dead in less than 23 minutes. As for the other, heaven have mercy on him, I do not know. On June 3rd, 1997, less than 2 months ago, the last of our supply ships blasted off from Lando for their return to Earth. After it had gone, I remember looking out across the plain at the dead city, one of thousands that dotted this planet. It had tall, graceful buildings, atomic power systems, vacuum conveyors, all perfect, all deserted, all ominous. How had it happened? The best guess was that the plague had frightened the original inhabitants of the planet so that they'd piled into rocket ships and headed for some distant planet. I often wondered why a civilization so advanced as Landro could not find a serum to beat the plague. It had taken our Earth doctors less than 6 months to develop an immunization method. Well, maybe those aborigines back in the hills knew the answer. That strange, ugly little people who had taken to the caves the day we landed. I was thinking these things when something happened that gave me the shock of my life.
Good evening, Captain.
Oh, what brings you here, Doctor?
It's the matter of the serum, sir.
Oh, what about the serum?
It's no good.
No good?
It's too old. 10 years too old.
Didn't you examine it?
Yes, I did, but, well, my eyesight has been failing lately.
Are you aware, Doctor, that the last supply ship has returned to Earth? Do you know we'll have no more contact for 2 years? How long do you give us?
Well, the present immunity will last a week or so. Then, without booster shots, it's just a question of time until someone picks up the plague. After that...
What about the natives? They don't die from the plague?
The accepted theory is that they have developed an immunity.
Well, suppose they haven't developed an immunity, Doctor. Suppose they get the disease.
Then they must have a treatment for it. If they don't, there would be no natives.
Would you be willing to go on an expedition to the hills to find out?
At this point, Captain, I'd be willing to do anything. Absolutely anything. I am truly sorry.
You're sorry? Dr. Morgan, sometime when you aren't too busy, when you have a moment, I'd hate to inconvenience you. Would you mind telling me how it feels to murder 180 men? 181, including yourself. I did a lot of thinking after Dr. Morgan left my hut. It was still unreal for me. After all, the planning of an expedition was no simple thing. You put into it the result of years of training and experience, years of study at the academy, years of learning how to handle men and natives. Every man on my crew was hand-picked for his skill. And yet, a simple thing like a myopic surgeon misreading a label could blast the whole thing. Yes, it was a shame. And I did the only thing I could think of. I yelled for Bat Ears Brady. Brady! Get your carcass in here. Take the lead out.
Okay. Well, what's up?
Sit down, Bat Ears.
You got trouble, Kev?
We got trouble.
What?
The serum's no good.
What?
Morgan forgot to check it. It's 10 years too old.
Holy jumping snails. You're going to court-martial
that? Wouldn't do much good. We'll all be dead pretty soon unless somebody figures something out.
Well, what are you going to do, Kev?
Well, there's only one chance. One chance in 10 million.
What?
The natives.
Them cave rats. What good can they do us?
Well, they don't get the plague, so maybe they know a cure.
Okay. Let's get a few of them and beat it out of them.
That's why you're here.
Shoot.
How'd you like to come along on a little expedition up to the cave country? You, me, the doctor, and Faulkner.
Faulkner? Now, listen, Cap, he's worse than the doctor.
Yes, but he knows more about the native culture than anybody here. He's the only one who's completely familiar with the records of the first expedition.
Okay, so it's me, you, the doc, and Faulkner. When do we start?
Tonight, in half an hour. We should reach the cave country by tomorrow. With luck, we'll be able to find natives before night. Benny Faulkner was the expedition anthropologist. One of the most unfortunate-looking individuals I've ever met. An ugly man with large ears and a big nose. His body was small and consumptive, but he had a good brain, and he was the best anthropologist the Interplanet Institute could recommend. He and Dr. Morgan were the only two civilians on the expedition. We set out, and after several hours hard walking...
Cap.
What is it?
Don't look now, but very slowly turn your eyes to the right and look behind that big yellow rock.
Okay.
You see anything?
No.
Keep looking. Don't stop walking or let on.
Okay.
There.
Yes, it looked like a shadow or something.
It's one of them gimpos. He's been following us now for almost an hour, dodging in and out behind the rocks. Shall I bring him in?
No, not yet. Just pretend you don't see him. Tell the others, if they notice, to show no fear. There's nothing will start these simple-minded cavemen like fear. The manual said, "Under no circumstances shall a member of the patrol display fear before a native. The dignity of the Earthman must be preserved at all costs." Just before dawn, we reached the cave country. We were tired and hungry, and we stopped to cook some food and rest. Everything was quiet. There was no sign of the gimpo which had been trailing us until...
Okay, get in there, you sneaking little monkey man. Come on, before I break this shovel on your stern.
Yeah, what's the trouble?
Cap, I caught me one of these gimpos sneaking around outside the tent.
Bring him in the light of the fire. We can get a look at him. Faulkner?
Yes, sir?
Keep an eye on him. Try to establish some communication.
All right, get in there.
Look out. No need to knock him down, Bat Ears.
Oh, that's the only language they understand.
See if you can reach him, Faulkner.
Okay, Captain. I'll need a drum of some sort.
A what?
Well, they have no language as we know it, and they have a very rudimentary sense of hearing. I find they communicate with one another through a very primitive kind of vibration of the tongue. The closest I can come is a series of drum beats, a sort of Morse code. The psychologist on the first expedition had it worked out before he was killed by the plague. I've studied his notes, and I think it'll work.
You mean these little critters can talk to one another?
I believe they can. At any rate, we'll have a chance to find out. Do we have something I can use for a drum?
Here, take my water bottle.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, I'll tap it 3 times. That's a greeting of some sort.
Just a moment.
Yes, sir?
I don't want you treating this fellow like an equal. Don't give him the idea that we're desperate. Once they sense that, you're lost.
I have to communicate with him, sir.
Well, just bear in mind what I said. Dignity.
Yes, sir. I'll do my best, sir.
It was a strange sight. On one side of the water bottle crouched little Benny Faulkner, looking for all the world like a human spider. Across from him crouched the Landrian, a humpbacked, gray little creature with an enormous head and those huge, soft lavender eyes. Every few moments, one would stop the strange tattoo of communication, and the other would take it up. I'm setting forth in this narrative the most vital part of their conversation, as Benny Faulkner later transcribed it from the best of his memory. Benny asked, "Why were your cities abandoned? Was it the plague?" The native said yes. Benny said, "Do you still fear the plague?" The native answered yes. "Do any of your people become afflicted?" The answer was some. "How do you treat them?" Silence. "How can we find a cure for the plague?" More silence. Then the native said, "Go among my people." Benny asked, "Will we find the answer among your people?" And the native replied, "My people have the answer." Benny said, "Will you tell me the answer?" The native repeated, "Go among my people." As far as the Landrian was concerned, the conversation was ended. He rose to go, and Faulkner stepped from his path, but Brady was there to ensure the bet.
Hold on there, bucko. You ain't going no place.
Don't maltreat him, Brady. What did he say, Benny?
He says his people have the answer.
What do you think?
There may be some truth in it. He says some of his people still get the plague.
That must mean it isn't a question of immunity. They must have a cure.
Well, he wasn't clear on that.
Then they must have a vaccine to keep it from spreading.
Does he know?
His answer is for us to go among his people.
Well, that leaves it up to us. The first level of caves is on top of that cliff about a mile ahead.
It's a trap. I'll bet my last dollar on it.
Well, maybe not. And we'll have to risk it.
Wait.
Well?
Let me go. I got you all into this.
But how will you talk?
Benny here can give me enough of the code so I can ask the big question.
You understand that they might just decide to cut your throat?
I'm fully aware of the risk.
All right, Doctor. You go ahead. We'll wait at the foot of the cliff. If you aren't back down in 3 hours, we'll come up after you.
What about the Gimpo here?
We'll hold him as a hostage to ensure the doctor's safety. If the doc comes back, all right, we'll let him go. If not, well, that's your job, Brady.
A pleasure.
It took Dr. Morgan about an hour to pick his way up the side of the cliff to the first of the openings where the Landrians lived. He waved to us before he entered the mouth of the cave, and we waved back. Then we settled down to wait. It was a long, long wait.
Eight o'clock. He's been up there more than 3 hours, Cap.
We'll give him a little more time.
It's getting colder.
Yes, keep that fire going.
How much longer are you going to wait, Cap?
Oh, we've got lots of time.
You'd think we'd have heard of something by now if they was going to knock him off, I mean.
No, not necessarily. Hey, wait. Look, up on the cliff.
That's him, all right. Hey, what's he running for?
I don't know. He looks scared.
That crazy fool, if he don't look out...
Doctor! Dr. Morgan, look out! Look out! We found the doctor at the foot of the cliff. crumpled and broken. There were no marks on his body, nothing except a twisted, mocking grin on his face. Oh, yes, and one other thing. Scrawled across the pad he had taken with him on which to make notes concerning the answer was a single word. The word was courtesy. We threw the paper away. The expedition was a failure, though Bat Ears claimed he'd get it out of the Gimpo if I'd let him. I nodded in agreement. Bat Ears took the little native off behind an outcropping of rock. He was back in 15 minutes, dripping with sweat. Well?
Let's go, Cap.
Nothing, huh?
But nothing.
Is he,
They ain't made very good, these little gray people. They come apart too easy, so let's go, huh, Cap?
All right. Benny. Benny, what is it?
I feel kind of sick. All of a sudden, in the back of my head, a dull kind of pain.
Let me see your tongue. Come on, give him a hand, Bat Ears. We've got to get him back to camp.
What is it?
I'm not sure, but that blackness on the tongue and the headache, it could be the plague. By the time we got Benny Faulkner back to camp, he had the red spots on his body, and then the fever began to rage. It was the plague, no mistake about it. Before morning, Collins, the supply sergeant, had it. Then it was Peabody. After that, the men went down like 10 pins. Then one morning, Bat Ears Brady dragged himself into my tent and sat down. The lines in his face told me the end was coming pretty fast. Sit down, Brady. Well, what's the count?
6 left. We buried the chaplain today. Got anything to drink?
Sorry, I'm all out.
How about a cigarette, then? You got a cigarette?
Yeah, sure. Here. How's Faulkner?
I don't get it. He's still alive.
Still alive?
Yep. In fact, he's getting better. He's sitting up.
Holy mackerel.
Oh, this is a good cigarette.
It's like any other.
No. This one's different, Cap. This is my last.
What do you mean, Brady?
Take a look at my tongue. See? Little black spots.
Somehow I managed to get him into bed. He was already raving when I gave him the last of the morphine. It was incredible. Big, brawling, Bat Ears Brady, a tower of strength, lying sick and whimpering on a cot. When he died, I went out on the moors to think. The sun was a dull red glow. Cold breeze whipped up. But somehow I couldn't forget Faulkner. Why should Faulkner recover from a plague from which no man has ever recovered? Surely there must be a reason. Nothing happened without a reason. I turned and went back to see Benny Faulkner.
Hello, Captain.
Hello, Benny. How are you?
Pretty good. I got up and walked a couple of steps today. How goes it?
Brady's gone. Oh. I just buried him. Listen, Benny, there must be some reason why...
Well, there's nothing strange about me, nothing different from any other man.
There must be. You survived the virus. Oh. Benny, I want you to tell me everything you know about yourself, everything you can remember. Because somewhere in your makeup is some little thing that makes the difference. If I can find that thing, then maybe I can do something to save myself and the rest. Even if I can't, at least I can leave a record for any future expedition that comes to Landro. Okay?
Okay, Captain. Where should I start?
At the beginning. I'm going to take notes.
Well, I was born on the 2nd of July in 1971. My parents were ordinary people. My father was... Look, Captain, I've told you everything I can remember. 3 days now you've gone over me, pawed me, questioned me. What else can I tell you?
Benny, let's go over that last part once again.
Where should I start?
Take it from where the native started to walk away. You stepped out of his path, and Brady grabbed him.
Okay, so I stepped out of his path.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why did you step out of his path?
Why not? Courtesy, I guess. What's the matter?
Courtesy. That's the word that Dr. Morgan had scrawled in his notebook.
Well, I don't see that.
I don't either. Tell me, Benny, why should you want to be courteous to a native?
Why not?
What about maintaining your own dignity?
Are you talking about dignity or arrogance?
I don't know. Benny, listen, maybe we were all wet in our deductions. Maybe these cities here on Landro weren't deserted centuries ago. Maybe these little people up in the caves are the same people who used to live in those big cities.
Why would they leave?
Maybe they found out the big cities weren't the answer. Maybe they found out that civilization doesn't necessarily bring happiness. So they just packed up and left, returned to the simple.
No, it doesn't make sense. You're forgetting the plague.
What is the plague, Benny?
Well, I don't know.
Is it a virus?
I don't think they ever found out.
You know what I think?
What?
I think the plague is nothing more than what we know as greed and arrogance.
Captain, you're going off your rocker.
I think maybe we're in line to die. Serum was good. In fact, I don't think the serum had anything to do with it.
Oh, I never heard anything as crazy, fantastic in my life.
No? Well, I think I'll go back to my tent and finish writing the report. I am beginning to sweat a little.
Captain, maybe it isn't the plague.
It is. I've seen it too many times to kid myself about it.
Maybe hot compresses or something.
No, Benny.
Listen, Captain, you don't believe that junk about courtesy, do you? I mean, that's a lot of nonsense. You must know that. Holy mackerel, Captain. You do believe it, don't you?
Good night, Benny. I think I'd like to be alone for a while.
Okay. Good night, Captain.
Maybe the supply ship will be early. You can probably stick it out.
Sure. Good night, Captain.
And this concludes my report. I'm turning it over to Benny Faulkner in the hopes that he will be able to transmit it to any other expedition commander who contemplates exploring the planet of Landro. The fever is beginning to mount now. My hands tremble as I write. The end should not be far off. There's little question in my mind as to what it'll be. You see, I didn't have a chance. I stepped out of no paths. I showed no courtesy.
You have just heard X-1, presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction. Tonight, by transcription, X-1 has brought you Courtesy, adapted for radio by George Lefferts from the story by Clifford Simad. Featured in the cast were Brett Morrison as Captain Ira Warren, Arnold Robertson as Battiers Brady, Edwin Jerome as Dr. Morgan, and Bill Griffiths as Benny Faulkner. Your announcer, Fred Collins. X-1 was directed by Ken McGregor and is an NBC Radio Network production. And now, next week, the frontier is a strange place, and a frontier is not always easy to recognize. It may lie on the other side of a simple door marked No Admittance, but it is always deadly dangerous. What happens when an innocent girl ignores a single regulation? You will find out next week at X-1.
When you buy United States savings bonds, you help to build your own future security. Here's an opportunity to save systematically for long-range personal objectives. And with their increased yield and other improvements, U.S. savings bonds are a better investment than ever before.
You're listening to HOJO Radio. Stay tuned.
Countdown for blast off. X minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X minus 1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million could-be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction, presents
X minus 1.
Tonight's story.
Cold Equations.
There is no margin of safety along the rim of a frontier. There can't be any until the way is made for those who come later. Until then, the penalty for mistakes is a grim one. The laws of physical nature operate with irrevocable certainty, with no room for mercy, kindness, or sentimentality. In space, life becomes a cold equation, and the equal sign is often followed by death. I know. I'm the pilot of an EDS.
Come in.
You sent for me, Commander?
Yes. Sit down, Barton. We just got an ED from the Territorial Space Station on Woden.
Woden. That's in the Crab Nebula, isn't it?
That's right. There are 2 exploration parties there on Manning's continent. 8 men each.
Mm-hmm.
They've got calla fever in one of them and no serum.
Oh, and I thought this was going to be a nice, quiet passenger run.
Computers are working out your payload and your course right now. In exactly 10 minutes, we'll drop into normal space and launch your ship.
I'll get her ready.
One thing.
What's that?
Woden is at the maximum pay limit for an EDS. Figuring the weight of the serum, we'll be able to give you just enough fuel to land on Manning's continent if you make it the first pass. Otherwise, you'll burn out in midair.
Mm-hmm. Standard procedure.
Report to launching control.
Right.
Good luck, Barton.
Thanks. Oh, by the way.
Yes?
When can I expect to be picked up?
We'll make a stop on the run back to Earth sometime next year. You'll be notified by radio.
Okay.
Sorry, we can't make it sooner.
That's what happens when you sign on for EDS work. I'll see you next year, Commander. Down in the belly of the Stardust, the crew was working like beavers to get the EDS, the emergency dispatch ship, ready. Mechanics and technicians were swarming all over the place. Girls in inspectors' uniforms were checking the gauges in the supply cabinet. 9 minutes later, the exact course was in the computer. The serum was stowed in my supply cabinet closet, and little EDS 4G3 was ready to be born into space.
Barton?
Yes, sir.
30 seconds to blast off. All set?
All set.
I'm turning you over to traffic.
Ready.
Traffic control. Come in, EDS 4G3.
Ready.
20 seconds. Lock open. 15 seconds. Space drive on.
Space drive on.
10 seconds. Gravity neutralizer on.
Neutralizer on.
5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
I don't remember how long it was afterwards that I first noticed something wrong. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. There was nothing to show it except the needle and the heat gauge. It was on 0 when we left the Stardust, and now I noticed that it had crept up toward the 30 mark. That meant something inside the ship was radiating heat. That something was in the supply closet, and it was alive. All right. Come out. Whoever or whatever you are, if you don't come out in 5 seconds, I'm going to blast you. 1, 2. Well, I'll be...
Hello. I'm Marilyn Lee Cross.
What are you doing in there?
I'm a stowaway.
Oh, my...
What's the matter? Do I have to pay a fine or something?
What are you doing here?
I wanted to see my husband.
Who's your husband?
He's with the government survey crew on Woden. I haven't seen him since he left Earth 4 years ago.
Okay. But what made you hide in my EDS?
I have a job waiting for me on Mimir, but I heard you were going to Woden and there was plenty of room, so I hid. Oh, I knew I'd be breaking some kind of rule, but what's one little rule?
What's one little rule? H amount of fuel will power an EDS with a mass of M safely to its destination. H amount of fuel will not power an EDS with a mass of M plus X safely to its destination. Well, how could she be expected to know? She was 5'2" with brown curly hair and the faint, sweet smell of perfume. She was 5'2" and she smelled like apple blossoms. And her name was X in an equation that would have to be balanced.
Stardust. Come in, EDS. Come in.
This is Barton, emergency dispatch pilot 4G3.
Go ahead.
Give me Commander Delhart.
What's the message, EDS?
I have to consult Commander Delhart.
The commander is busy.
Listen, you squirt. Give me Commander Delhart.
1 moment, 4G3. Commander Delhart, emergency message from EGS 4G3.
This is Delhart. What is it?
At 0800 hours, I discovered a stowaway aboard my ship.
A stowaway?
Yes, sir.
Well, have you notified ship's records?
Not yet, sir.
You know the regulations as well as I do.
Of course I know the regulations. That's why I'm calling.
Barton, what's going on?
Sir, this is a girl. A young woman.
Oh.
She wanted to see her husband on Woden. She didn't know what she was doing.
I see.
I wondered, sir, maybe the cruiser could change course or something?
I'm afraid not. We're hundreds of light years apart now. We have a limited fuel supply ourselves, with 900 passengers.
Is there any chance?
No.
Okay, Skipper.
Better get the information to ship's records.
Okay.
Barton.
Skipper?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
You cut our acceleration, didn't you?
Yes.
Why?
Well, save fuel. For a while. How did you manage to stow away?
I was taking a language lesson in Mimirese from a girl in the inspection corps. The order came in for your trip, and I just went along on an impulse. Oh, it was easy. I'll be a model prisoner, I promise.
Oh, if you were only a thief or a spy, it would make it easier.
Make what easier?
Forget it. Why couldn't she have been somebody with some ulterior motive, a fugitive, hoping to lose himself in a raw new world, a crackpot with a mission? Why did she have to be a woman? A beautiful, kind, trusting woman?
Stardust.
Barton, EDS 4G3.
Go ahead, 4G3. Identify a stowaway.
Give me your identification disc, Miss Cross.
Here. Why?
Well, it's for ship's records. Identification number T8374.
1 moment. This is for the gray card, of course.
Yes.
I'll need the time of...
I'll tell you later.
That's highly irregular.
Then we'll do it in a highly irregular manner. The subject is a young woman. She's listening to everything that's said. Are you capable of understanding that?
Oh. Go ahead, 4G3.
Number T8374-Y54. Name, Marilyn Lee Cross. Female, married. Born July 7th, 2160. Good Lord, you're only a child. Height, 5 feet 2 inches. Weight, 110. Hair, brown. Eyes, blue. Complexion, light. Blood type O. Original destination, Port City, Mimir. Listen, I'll call you back later. Look, miss.
Marilyn.
Look, Marilyn. I guess you don't know what you got yourself into here. Well, it's like this. This ship is carrying Calla fever serum to the survey group on Woden.
Yes.
Their supply was wrecked in a tornado. The fever is always fatal unless the serum is given in the first 48 hours. Now, these little ships have exactly enough fuel to reach their destination. If you stay aboard her, your added weight will cause it to use up all its fuel before it can land.
What happens then?
We crash. You die, I die, and 6 fever victims on Woden die.
Well, can't they send out another ship to meet us?
There are no ships to send.
Well, Oh, no. Oh, no, you couldn't do that.
That's how it has to be.
But that's crazy. I haven't done anything. I haven't hurt anybody.
I'm sorry. I should have told you before, but I wanted to make sure there was no other way.
You mean it? You're going to make me leave this ship?
That's how it is.
But I'll die. I'll explode. I'll be like those horrible pictures of...
Try to understand.
I do understand. You're going to kill me, and I didn't do anything.
I know you didn't. That has nothing to do with it.
It has everything to do with it. Nobody just dies like that for no reason. Oh, listen. Maybe there are other cruisers. Cruisers you don't know about. Maybe the radio. Maybe it...
Now, listen to me. It's different here. Different from anything you've ever known. On Woden, there are 16 men. 16 men on an entire world. They're fighting. Fighting an alien environment. The environment fights back. You can only make a mistake once.
And I made a mistake.
Yes.
There's no hope.
Absolutely none. You'll have to be put out of the ship. It was better so. With the going of all hope would go the fear. Then would come the resignation. She needed time, and there was so little.
EDS. Starship to EDS. Need pertinent data.
All right, Starship.
When do you expect to complete your report?
I need a computer check.
I'll give you statistics. Statistics.
This is EDS 4G3. I'm intersecting course vector 7.3 at 0831. Deceleration 1750, weight 1 ton. I would like to stay at point 10 as long as the computers allow. Will you give them the question?
Check. I'll call you back.
We wouldn't have long to wait. The new factors would be fed into the steel maw of the computer bank, and the electrical impulses would go through the complex circuits. Here and there, a relay would click, a tiny cog turn over. But it would be the current, formless, mindless, invisible, which would determine with utter precision how long the pale young girl beside me would live. 5 little segments of metal in the second bank would trip against an inked ribbon, and the machine would spit out the answer.
You will resume deceleration at 1910.
It was 1810 when he spoke. 1 hour. She has 1 hour to live. That's it.
All I did was hide in a closet. And now you tell me I have to die. I don't believe it.
You might as well get used to it.
If this happened back on Earth, 1,000 ships would fill the sky. The whole world would know about it. They'd do everything to save me.
This isn't Earth.
It was such a big dream. Jerry and I separated almost 5 years ago. We were too young. And I was going to see him to try to make everything all right again. Are you married?
I was.
Oh?
She ran off with some guy in the weather service.
Do you still think about it?
I don't let myself.
Where is she?
Back on Earth. Look, if you don't mind, I'd just as soon talk about something else.
Okay. What do you do when you've got an hour to live? What do you talk about?
What's Jerry like?
Jerry? Oh, he's a funny guy. When he found out, I mean about the other fella, he didn't get mad. He cried. That was all he felt, sadness.
So you walked all over him.
Oh, I thought I wanted him to get mad at me, to be jealous.
And now?
Been thinking about him for 5 years. So when I heard the ship was bound for Woden and I knew Jerry was there, I stowed away. I didn't know about the fuel. I didn't know this would happen to me.
She had violated a man-made law that said keep out. The penalty was not of man's making or desire. It was not a penalty men could revoke. H amount of fuel will power an EDS with a mass of M's safely to its destination. The time was 1830. 40 minutes. It was beginning to get me. A space frontier is a rough place, and I'd seen 100 men die since I left Earth. But this was different. I watched her as she wrote a message to her folks. I watched her as she fought her way through the black horror of fear toward the calm gray of acceptance. And then there it was on the view screen. The planet Woden. A red ball enshrouded in the blue haze of its atmosphere, swimming in space against the background of star-sprinkled blackness. The chronometer on the instrument panel said 1845. Listen, we're in radio range of Woden now. I mean, would you want me to try to contact your husband?
Jerry?
It'd mean he would know you're going to die. There'd be nothing anyone can do.
Yes. I would like to talk to him. Do you think we can?
Well, the planet is turning. If his group is on the side facing us, we might be able to reach him.
Oh, try.
All right. Hello. Hello, Woden. EDS to Government Survey Group. Can you hear me? Come in, Woden. They may not be monitoring.
Hello?
Hello. Hello. Identify yourself, please.
This is Government Survey Group 1 on Planet Woden.
This is John Barton, EDS pilot.
Do you have the serum?
Yes. How bad is it?
1 man died last night. 6 have the fever. How long will it take to...
I start deceleration at 1910 hours. I should be able to land at 1930.
Thank God.
Look, do you have a Gerald Cross in charge of the group?
Commander Cross? Yes, we do.
Could I speak to him?
He isn't here. He's out with the survey team.
Well, when do you expect him?
Can't say.
How do you read me? How much time do we have left for communication?
Less than 15 minutes.
All right. If Commander Cross comes back before we lose radio contact, will you have him buzz me? It's important.
Okay, EDS.
I'll keep the set open.
Check.
The minutes passed like small bits of eternity. On the view screen, I could see Manning's continent sprawled like a gigantic hourglass in the eastern sea. There was a thin line of shadow where it was beginning to disappear as the planet turned on its axis. I looked at the pale woman next to me, and I thought of another woman long ago who'd sat next to me and cried because I wouldn't try to understand. What had she written in those letters back home? What would they think of the faceless, unknown pilot who'd sent her to her death? What would I think of myself alone nights, reliving this voyage?
Cold, isn't it?
I'll turn up the thermostat.
Nothing from Jerry?
We have about 2 minutes of radio contact left.
Maybe it's better. I mean, suppose it were you and your wife tried to call you. How would you feel?
I don't know.
Do you ever hear from her?
I got a letter about a year ago. I tore it up.
That was foolish.
Yeah, it was.
Life is so terribly short to be wandering around alone.
Well, Wait a second, we're getting something.
How much time before I have to leave the ship?
About 10 minutes.
Hello, EDS. Hello, EDS. Come in. Come in.
EDS.
This is Woden. I have Commander Cross.
All right, go ahead.
Hello, this is Commander Cross.
Jerry Cross?
Yes.
I have someone for you. Go ahead.
Hello.
Jerry?
Hello?
Jerry?
Who is it?
It's me, Marilyn.
Marilyn.
I wanted to see you again. I stowed away on the EDS.
You what? But Marilyn...
It doesn't matter, Jerry. All that matters is that I can tell you all the things I've kept inside for so long. Jerry, I want you to know I've never forgotten.
Oh, it's been so many years. I can't believe it.
I thought I'd see you again, but now I can't. Jerry, you don't hate me, do you?
Hate you? Oh, Marilyn, I've never stopped loving you. Not for an instant.
Oh, Jerry.
Listen, we don't have much time. The transmission is getting fuzzy. Oh, Marilyn, I've got to see you. There's got to be some way.
But there isn't.
Let me talk to the pilot.
Give it to me. Hello.
Pilot, have you called the mothership? Did you have them checked with the computers?
I've done everything. You've been on the frontier long enough to know the setup in an EDS.
Oh, dear God, there must be something, some way.
Do you think I'd let this happen if I wasn't sure?
He tried to help me, Jerry. He tried. And it really doesn't matter. I'm not frightened anymore. Not now.
But how did you get here? I don't understand.
Well, I was going to Mimir to take a job, I thought. And now I realize I was just going because I'd be closer to where you were. Oh, Jerry, all this time...
Don't. Let me tell you something. Marilyn, I've always known you'd come back to me. I've known it every minute. It's what's kept me alive. I want you to hold that in your mind.
Jerry, I can't hear you.
We haven't much time. We're losing radio contact.
Jerry!
Oh, don't cry, darling. Just know how I feel.
I do.
It's fading.
There are so many things to say. Jerry, if you can still hear me, maybe I'll come to see you again. Maybe I'll come to you in your dreams, or be the touch of a breeze, or one of those golden-winged little birds singing my silly head off. Maybe I'll be nothing you can see or hear, but you'll know I'm there. Think of me like that, Jerry. Goodbye.
Goodbye, my darling.
She sat motionless in the hush that followed. And then she looked at me.
Now?
Now. I pulled down the black lever, and the inner door of the lock slid open. She walked with her head up and the brown curls brushing her shoulders. I let her do it alone. She stepped into the lock and turned to face me, and I could see the pulse in her throat.
I'm ready.
I pulled the red lever, and there was a slight waver as the air gushed out. I thought I sensed a bump, as if something had bumped the outer door. And then there was nothing. The white hand of the closet temperature control was back at 0. A cold equation had been balanced, and I was alone in the ship.
You have just heard X-1, presented by the National Broadcasting Company in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction. Tonight, by transcription, X-1 has brought you Cold Equations, written by Tom Godwin and adapted for radio by George Lefferts. Featured in the cast were Court Benson as Barton, Jay Meredith as Marilyn, Milo Bolton as Commander Delhart, Bob Hastings as Jerry Cross, Jack Arthur as Traffic Control Officer, and Walter Kinsella as the Woden Monitor. Your announcer, Bill Rippey. X-1 was directed by Ken McGregor and is an NBC Radio Network production. And now, next week. In the days of the Windjammers, whalers sometimes went on cruises that lasted as long as 2 years, and so sometimes they had to resort to rough methods to gather a crew. But what of the future when a cruise to a distant star may last for 15 years or more? We hear of such a voyage next week on X-1.
Our next broadcast was produced for syndication in 1949 at WMGM New York. It was based on a popular series of movies in the late 1930s and early 1940s and brought to the microphone the stars of the series, Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. Ayres plays the young, idealistic doctor, and Barrymore, ever in character, was the crusty, lovable diagnostician. The men worked at Blair General Hospital, one of the great citadels of American medicine, a clump of gray-white buildings planted deep in the heart of New York, where life begins, where life ends, where life goes on. We present to you Dr. Kildare on HOJO Radio.
The story of Dr. Kildare.
Whatsoever house I enter, there will I go for the benefit of the sick. And whatsoever things I see or hear concerning the life of men, I will keep silence thereon, counting such things to be held as sacred trusts. I will exercise my art solely for the...
The Story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer brought you those famous motion pictures. Now this exciting, heartwarming series is heard on radio. In just a moment, the story of Dr. Kildare. But first, your announcer. Now, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Blair General Hospital, one of the great citadels of American medicine, a clump of gray-white buildings planted deep in the heart of New York, a nerve center of medical progress where great minds and skilled hands wage man's everlasting battle against death and disease. Blair General Hospital, where life begins, where life ends, where life goes on. Well, I guess that's about all we can do for her until morning, Dr. Gillespie.
She'll be all right, Jimmy. She showed a good response to the stimulant. Parker?
Yes, Dr. Gillespie.
Parker, you'd better stay here with Mrs. Stanford for an hour or so until we have another nurse assigned.
All right, Doctor.
It's a good thing she had medical attention in a hurry. At her age, with a case of angina pectoris as bad as this, well...
Apparently, she didn't even know she had a heart condition.
No. The intern who went out with the ambulance said no one in her family had given her any kind of a stimulant. Didn't have any in the house, in fact.
Well, they better have some now, from now on.
Yes. Anybody who can make her frightened enough or mad enough actually holds her life right in his hands.
I'm Mrs. Stanford's nephew, gentlemen, Everett Ward.
How do you do?
This is Miss Lane, Deborah Lane, my aunt's companion and secretary.
How you do?
How is my aunt?
Well, she's asleep now, Mr. Ward, and out of danger as far as this particular attack is concerned.
Oh, I'm so glad. We were terribly worried.
A reason to be, young lady. That woman's heart's in pretty bad shape.
None of us even suspected it.
Then her condition really is serious. I mean, there'll be danger from now on?
Oh, considerable, Miss Lane. She'll have to be carefully protected from any kind of emotional excitement. That is, anger, fear, that sort of thing.
Well, fortunately for her, my aunt is a very even-tempered person. Seldom gets upset.
Yes, I think tonight is the only time in 2 years that I've seen her actually angry. Of course, Miss Amy feels responsible for the...
Deborah, I don't think it's necessary to discuss the personal affairs of our household publicly.
I see nothing so very personal about it, Everett.
I insist that you drop the subject.
Insist? You know, I'm not employed by you.
While my aunt is incapacitated, you may assume that I am in charge of her affairs.
I see.
Gentlemen, I apologize for this contretemps.
I hardly see any point in my staying here since Mrs. Stanford seems to be out of danger. Is there any place open where I could get a cup of coffee?
Why, yes, Miss Lane. Sullivan's, right across the street. Open all night. I was just going over there if you'd care to join me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kildare. I'd love to.
Good. Let's go. See you later, Dr. Gillespie. Good night, Mr. Ward.
Good night, Dr. Kildare.
She's quite a lovely girl.
Oh, yes, she's lovely enough. And apparently she's made another conquest.
Kildare, you mean? Well, I guess he did have a kind of a glint in his eye at that.
Dr. Gillespie, that girl is a devil.
Oh, good morning, Dr. Kildare.
Good morning, Parker. Dr. Gillespie.
You're late. Coffee lover?
Coffee lover?
My Secret Service advises me that you came back to the hospital at 1:45 a.m.
Oh, I see. Parker.
Oh, good heavens, not me, Dr. Kildare. It was long past my bedtime when you came back from... That is, when you must have came back...
Parker, you have just hanged yourself.
Dr. Gillespie, I'll never tell you another thing as long as I live.
Sure you will, Parker. You just can't help yourself. Your brain consists entirely of tattletale gray matter.
Oh.
Furthermore, you're a congenital snoop.
Why, Oh!
You know, Jimmy, I don't blame you.
Blame me?
Miss Lane is a very pretty girl.
Oh, well, she's certainly a very interesting girl.
That's merely another way of saying the same thing.
All right, but she happens to be both.
Her employer's nephew doesn't seem to have quite the same opinion.
Ward? I guess he's been sitting around for years waiting for Mrs. Stanford to die so he can take over her fortune. Deborah can't stand him.
Deborah, huh? Apparently you've been making progress, Jimmy.
Well, Maybe we'd better go have a look at Mrs. Stanford.
Yes, that's right. I'd almost forgotten about her heart condition.
Hmm? What are you talking about?
Merely thinking of one of the more basic facts of medicine, Jimmy. Whenever the human heart begins to act up, it always means trouble.
Gentlemen, I hardly know what to say. Of course, I've noticed pains once in a while, but a woman my age expects to have an occasional pain.
Well, an occasional pain is all you'll need to worry about if you'll just take care of yourself. No more arguments like the one last night, for instance.
Oh, I shouldn't have let myself become so angry, but Amy knows better. She knows how those things frighten me.
Those things?
Oh, didn't Everett tell you?
No.
Well, you see, my sister Amy lives with me, and last night I found it was something I had expressly forbid her ever to bring into the house again. A Ouija board.
A Ouija board?
Well, now, that seems like a harmless pastime.
Possibly for some people, but Amy has an obsession along those lines. She spends most of her time trying to communicate with the dead.
Mm. And as you say, this sort of thing frightens you, Mrs. Stanford?
Terrifies me. Apparitions, ghostly voices. Oh, I don't even like to think about them.
Well, maybe I'd better speak to Amy when I stop by to see you tonight.
Stop by to see me?
Why, yes. In a case of angina, there's no reason to keep the patient in the hospital after the attack is over.
Oh.
But I thought I would call at your home after dinner and see how you were feeling.
But, Kildare, you're not on duty tonight.
Oh, that's all right. I don't mind. It's no trouble at all.
I see.
You would.
Mrs. Stanford, I think you can count on some very devoted medical attention from Dr. Kildare.
That's awfully nice of you, Doctor. But I do hope you won't scold Amy. She probably feels guilty enough already.
No, but I do want to impress her with the importance of not upsetting you under any circumstances.
Yes, that is something to think about. My life is in the hands of anybody who can make me frightened or angry. It makes you wonder.
Oh, good evening, Dr. Kildare. Come in, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. How's Mrs. Stanford feeling this evening?
Much better, Doctor. Her sitting room is on the second floor. I'll take you up.
Thank you. Oh, but I'd like to see Miss Lane first, if I may.
I see. You're wasting your time, you know.
Oh? Well, it's my time, Mr. Ward.
She's a heartless, selfish little devil, Dr. Kildare. Nothing means anything to her except money. I'm warning you.
But there's a question whether you're warning me for my sake or for yours.
Very well. I'll tell her you're here. Please sit down.
Quite a place. Mrs. Stanford must be worth a fortune.
Hello?
Huh? Oh. How do you do? I'm Dr. Kildare. I assume you are Miss Amy.
Yes, I am. How could you possibly know that?
Oh, just a guess.
They told you.
They?
Spirits. We have to be very careful. Nobody here lets me talk about things like that.
I see.
Tell me, are you a believer, too?
Well,
My sister's not a believer. Are you her doctor?
Yes.
It was my fault, you know.
No, it wasn't your fault at all. You didn't know about the heart condition.
Oh, no.
But now that you found out how serious it is, you understand the importance of not getting her upset again.
I wouldn't upset her for the world. Of course, I hope they won't be angry about it.
They?
My friends, Doctor.
Oh, yes.
They could cause a lot of trouble if they became angry, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Noises at night, all that sort of thing.
Yes. Well, let's hope they don't become angry then.
Hello, Jimmy.
Deborah.
Never said you were here. Oh, I see you've met Miss Amy.
Yes. Had a very pleasant conversation.
Oh, yes. Well, I have to go now.
Oh,
If you'll excuse me.
You'll remember what we talked about, Amy.
Oh, yes, Doctor, I'll remember.
Well.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
She's really awfully sweet.
Yes.
Jimmy, I had a wonderful time last night. I'm so glad you came this evening.
Oh, good. Technically, I'm making a professional call on Mrs. Stanford, of course. Apparently, Mr. Ward prefers that I limit it to that.
Does his preference really mean very much?
Well, not to me. What do you prefer, Deborah?
That you don't limit it to that.
Well, I'd better run up and take a look at my patient.
All right, Jimmy. Come down to the study when you're through. I'll be waiting.
Right.
Doesn't mean a thing, Dr. Gillespie, not a thing.
Doesn't mean anything. I suppose he's made a call at that house every evening this week because of his professional concern with Mrs. Stanford's heart.
Maybe.
Kildare has always been putty in the hands of a scheming and designing female. Putty.
Well, I haven't noticed him crying for help.
Of course not. She's got him hypnotized. He doesn't even know he's drowning.
Well, personally, I don't think he is.
Don't think who's what, Parker?
Don't think you're drowning, Dr.
Parker.
That is, of course, what I mean is that...
Pay no attention to her, Jimmy. You know how Parker is. Out of her mind half the time.
Well...
Jimmy, I was wondering if we could spend this evening going over the monthly progress reports together.
Well, couldn't we sort of take care of it in the morning?
No, I'm all tied up tomorrow.
Well, I had a tentative engagement this evening.
Oh? Social engagement?
Oh, not exactly. No, I thought I'd drop by and see how Mrs. Stanford's getting along.
Oh, well, now, if that's what it is, just forget it. All she needs is rest and quiet.
Yeah, but you see,
Oh, confound that phone. Gillespie speaking. Huh? Oh, how long ago? Yes, of course. Right away. Goodbye. Come on, Jimmy. We're both going over to Mrs. Stanford's.
Mrs. Stanford's? But you said that...
Never mind that now. She just had another heart attack. Bad one.
We will return to the story of Dr. Kildare in just a moment. Now we continue with the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
She's beginning to come out of it.
Yeah, pulse is steady and stronger now.
It was a close shave. Wonder what brought it on.
None of them seem to know. She was apparently alone at the time.
No, go away.
Easy now. It's all right, Mrs. Stanford. Everything is all right.
Oh, I thought... Oh, Dr. Kildare, Dr. Gillespie, you're here.
Yeah, that's right, Miss Stanford. You just relax now. Nothing to worry about.
Oh, I was so frightened. I tried to scream. I was terrified.
Terrified of what?
Well, something, I don't know what.
What do you mean by something, Mrs. Stanford?
Oh, it was like a ghost. It was carrying a long knife. I could see it in the moonlight, and that's all I remember.
Well, anyway, it's all over now. We're here, and your family's outside there in your sitting room, so you just lie back and go to sleep.
Oh, yes, sleep. I'm so tired. But I'm so glad that both of you are here. It's all right now.
Come on, Jimmy. Well, what do you think?
About the ghost?
Yeah.
I don't know, Dr. Gillespie. But I think we'd better find out. No, I think it's best that you don't go in to see her tonight, Mr. Ward. That none of you do, in fact. She's asleep now and shouldn't be disturbed.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
And in view of what happened tonight, it's Kildare's and my opinion that she should have a permanent nurse with her starting in the morning.
Well, just what did happen exactly? Everett sent me to the drugstore for some cigarettes, and when I came back, Mrs. Stanford had had an attack. What caused it?
Now, we didn't want to get her upset by questioning her. We were hoping one of you might know something about it.
As far as I know, nothing caused it, gentlemen. She was alone there in her bedroom at the time. I was down in the study. I'm not sure where Miss Amy was.
Oh, I was down in the kitchen.
No, of course.
Really, I was. Not doing anything. Just down there, that's all.
It's all right, Miss Amy.
But I was, really.
Miss Amy, please. Anyway, I heard my aunt cry out upstairs. Rushed up and found her in a state of collapse. I phoned the hospital, then did what I could for her until you arrived.
When you came up here to her room, Mr. Ward, did you happen to notice any sign of a ghost?
Now, wait a minute, Doctor.
I know, Mr. Ward, we're all reasonable people, but Mrs. Stanford says she saw a white figure come into her bedroom carrying a long knife.
I told you, Dr. Kildare.
Yes, I know, Amy, but...
I told you they'd cause trouble if they became angry.
They? Who were they?
The spirits, Dr. Gillespie.
Oh, yes.
They knew she was the one who made me stop talking to them. It was retribution, that's what it was.
Miss Amy, please, that's enough now.
You don't believe me either, Everett, but you to find out. Oh, I've got to go tell them it wasn't my fault I stopped talking to them. They mustn't blame me for it.
I think maybe I better go try to quiet her. Please excuse me.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I have a somewhat painful question, but I do feel it necessary that I ask it.
Oh? What is it?
Is there a possibility that my aunt may be suffering from hallucinations? A mental instability, as you might call it?
None whatever, Mr. Ward. If she says she saw a ghost, then she did see a ghost.
But that's ridiculous.
Maybe. But so is the idea that Mrs. Stanford is not of sound and competent mind, as I believe the legal phrase reads.
I don't know what you're implying, Doctor. But I wasn't thinking of any legal aspect. Naturally, I'm concerned about her. She is my aunt, you know. And, gentlemen, I think I'll bid you good night now.
Good night. You know, Doctor, I can't quite figure him out.
Jimmy, in your present condition, you're not in shape to figure anything out.
Present condition?
Yeah. Amatory catalepsy.
Oh, you mean Deborah.
I mean, if I were 30 years younger, I'd probably be the same way. Now go on downstairs and stop trying to edge toward that door gracefully.
Well, as a matter of fact, there were a couple of things that I...
Yes, of course. I'll stay here a while and check Mrs. Stanford's pulse a time or two before we leave.
Good. And I'll see you a little later.
All right, Jimmy, all right. Well, now, I never did get around to reading that book. Yeah. Huh?
Lars, they mustn't hear this.
Well, Miss Amy.
I had to see you right away.
Well, here I am. So why don't you... Say, what's that you're holding behind your back?
Oh, you mean this?
A butcher knife.
Yes, that's why I came.
Why you came?
Yes, it was missing from the kitchen. I just found it. I thought that might mean something.
You know what, Miss Amy? I think I agree with you. Come on in. Come in and shut the door.
Well, if you and Dr. Kildare are really due back at the hospital, I guess there's nothing much I can say. Except I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry, too, Miss Lane, but this is something that absolutely must be taken care of. Coming, Jimmy?
Oh, yes, that important matter couldn't
Yeah.
possibly wait. I'll phone you tomorrow, Deborah.
Very well, Doctor. I'll go to the door with you.
I was wondering, Miss Lane, do you happen to know the terms of Mrs. Stanford's will?
Why, yes, I helped her make the first draft to go to her attorneys last year.
Oh.
Oh, except for a small bequest to me and to her other employees, the estate is divided evenly between Miss Amy and Everett Ward. Oh, here you are.
You know, it's a little frightening to think of that much money in Amy's hands.
Well, it would only technically belong to her. The will appoints Mr. Ward administrator for her.
Yes, very interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, good night, Miss Lane. I'll send a nurse over the first thing in the morning.
Good night, Dr. Gillespie. Good night, Jimmy.
Good night, Deborah.
Nice night, isn't it, Jimmy?
No. Yeah, great. Suppose you tell me what this is all about.
Oh, a combination of greed, the spirit world, and a potentially perfect crime. A murder.
Murder?
Mm-hmm.
In that case, what are we leaving for?
We're not. There's a side entrance to the garden just ahead of us there. And a stairway leading up to the terrace of Mrs. Stanford's sitting room. I left the terrace door unlocked.
Uh-huh.
Of course, a slight risk is involved. A criminal charge of housebreaking.
And don't forget that butcher knife. 2 hours. I'd be tired of sitting this long in the dark on a sofa, let alone behind one.
Well, if we're wrong and get caught here, we may find ourselves behind something a lot worse than a sofa.
The longer we're here, the more I suspect we are wrong. Miss Amy could have misplaced that knife, and
Jimmy, shh. Quiet.
Somebody in the hall outside. They're coming in.
Can you see anything?
No.
Good Lord. All in white. All right, Jimmy, turn on the lights.
Right.
You can take off that sheet, Miss Lane.
What? Deborah.
I thought you'd gone hours ago. What are you doing here?
Well, I was waiting for you. Kildare just came along for the ride.
Yeah, I guess I've had one, too.
Jimmy, I was only playing a sort of joke.
Some joke.
Same kind you played earlier, Miss Lane? When you started for the drugstore and then slipped back up those terrace stairs? $100,000 joke, huh?
What do you mean?
According to Miss Amy, that bequest in Mrs. Stanford's will isn't quite as small as you imply.
Jimmy, you don't think that...
I have nothing to say.
All right. What are you going to do, turn me in?
That's up to Mr. Ward as soon as we wake him up and tell him about it.
Well, go ahead, then. See how much good it's done.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I guess there's nothing much to say.
Oh, plenty. But thanks for not saying it.
One good thing, apparently Mrs. Stanford hasn't waked up.
I have, though, Dr. Gillespie. How would you like to kick me?
Why? For being susceptible to the call of the wild goose? I only wish I were. Why, when I was your age, Jimmy, I was susceptible to every pretty girl who walked by.
Yes, but that's what worries me, Dr. Gillespie. When I'm your age, I may still be.
In just a moment, we will return to the story of Dr. Kildare. And now, once again, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Well, that's that, Dr. Gillespie. One more month. One more progress report.
Yes, Jimmy, it's one of the dullest duties a doctor ever has. Confounded, you gotta fight disease in the wards, in the operating rooms, in the laboratories, not on a sheet of paper.
Well, I suppose you can't run a hospital without keeping records.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's done. Oh, good morning, Parker.
Good morning, Dr. Kildare. I just picked up the new patient list from registry. There's one assigned to you, room 417.
417. What's the case, Parker?
No, I don't really know, Dr. Kildare. It's here on the form. And here are 2 new ones for you, Dr. Gillespie.
Well, now, let's see what the gods have provided.
Oh, no. This is out.
What's the matter, Jimmy?
This new case in 417, Dr. Gillespie. You take it.
Well, why, Dr. Kildare?
Parker, you won't understand the reasoning behind this, but 417 happens to be a 22-year-old girl with a heart condition.
You have just heard the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. This program is written by Les Crutchfield and directed by William P. Russo. Original music is composed and conducted by Walter Schumann. Supporting cast included Virginia Gregg, Peggy Weber, Lillian Baeff, Isabel Randolph, and David Ellis. Dick Joy speaking.
Thanks for listening to HOJO Radio. We have more classic radio coming your way next.
The story of Dr. Kildare.
Whatsoever house I enter, there will I go for the benefit of the sick. Whatsoever things I see or hear concerning the life of men, I will keep silence thereon, counting such things to be held as sacred trusts. I will exercise my art solely for the...
The story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer brought you those famous motion pictures. Now this exciting, heartwarming series is heard on radio. In just a moment, the story of Dr. Kildare. But first, your announcer. Now, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Blair General Hospital, one of the great citadels of American medicine. The clump of gray-white buildings planted deep in the heart of New York. The nerve center of medical progress, where great minds and skilled hands wage man's everlasting battle against death and disease. Blair General Hospital, where life begins, where life ends, where life goes on.
Dr. Gillespie, I don't care how strong a hunch you have. Things have been quiet around the hospital for over a week. What could happen?
Parker, anything could happen. A meteor could fall on the East Wing. We could have an epidemic of bubonic plague. Carew could suddenly become intelligent.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
You mean about Carew? Well, I guess that's a little far-fetched.
I mean, the whole idea is ridiculous. Just because you've got a feeling of some sort is no reason to believe...
Morning, Dr. Gillespie.
Good morning, morning.
Parker, you've got that gleam of baffle in your eye. What's up?
Oh, it's Dr. Gillespie. He has a hunch some catastrophe is about to happen.
Well, don't worry about it. I've seen his hunches turn out wrong before.
Maybe so, Jimmy, maybe so, but you've also seen them turn out right.
Sure, sometimes. Law of averages.
Law of averages.
Oh, dear.
Carew! For the first time in my life, I hope you really do have a crisis.
Oh, I do, Dr. Gillespie. We do. Blair Hospital does.
What sort of a crisis, Dr. Carew?
Oh, it's most upsetting. A new patient came in about an hour ago.
Well, now, Carew, we've met that particular crisis successfully before.
But you don't understand. This man has already disrupted hospital routine simply no end.
What's he done?
Dr. Kildare, he insists on keeping a pistol in his room and some kind of a musical instrument, a guitar, I believe he calls it, and he won't take his hat off.
Won't take his hat off?
Precisely, Dr. Kildare.
Carew, what's the name of this problem patient?
One that's quite in keeping with his occupation. Huh? He's with a Wild West show that's playing across town. A professional cowboy, he calls himself. His name is Buffalo Barney McClure.
Oh, Dr. Carew, I still don't understand what disturbs you so much.
Dr. Kildare, if you can imagine a man with long hair, a mustache, and a goatee sitting up in bed in a hospital gown, holding a pistol, and wearing a 10-gallon hat, well,
It's a perfectly horrible sight.
Boys, I want to tell you that I ain't never been sick a day in my whole life till this happened.
I see. And the pain seems to center in the upper abdomen around here.
Oh, out. Careful, Doc. My innards is mighty tender. They're mighty tender.
Mr. McClure, what about that fall you took from your horse last night at the show?
Oh, shuckins, that weren't nothing. I've been throwed by cayuses ever since I was hip-high to a tumblebuck.
But it did shake you up a little, didn't it?
Well, it knocked my darn bridge work out, but that fall didn't have nothing to do with this here bellyache. I felt fine till this morning.
Sometimes internal injuries don't show up for hours or even days after an accident, Mr. McClure.
Call me Buffalo, Doc. I ain't used to this here Mr. McClure stuff.
All right, Buffalo. Well, Dr. Gillespie, apparently the next step is a fluoroscopic examination.
Yes, sure, I know. Parker's getting an X-ray room assigned now.
Boys, I sure do hope there ain't nothing real bad wrong with me.
Oh, let's assume not for the present anyway.
Sure would hate to think that I was cashing in my chips.
Well, even if it is an injury, it probably won't be serious.
Only time I ever needed a sawbones before was to dig a bullet out of my shoulder. And say, boys, I've been figuring on asking you something.
Oh? What's that?
That feller that's the boss of this year's spread, that there Dr. Carew. Is he got any kin folks out west anywhere?
Carew? Oh, I don't think so.
Well, I used to know a feller years ago named Three-Fingered Tom Carew. Sure would like to meet up with some of his next of kin.
Well, I doubt very much if any relative of Dr. Carew's would let himself be called Three-Fingered Tom.
Come in. Oh, it's you, Parker. Come in.
Dr. Gillespie, I've got all the arrangements taken care of. You can have X-ray room number 8 in 30 minutes.
Oh, fine, Parker. Fine.
Well, boys, ain't none of you going to give me a howdy-doody to this charming little lady?
Well...
Parker, this is Mr. Buffalo Barney McClure. Miss Parker will be your nurse.
How do you do, Mr. Buffalo?
Well, now, I reckon you're just about the prettiest little urine that's come down the chute in about 4 months of Sunday.
Really?
Buffalo? Are you quite sure you know what you're saying?
Why, you doggone right, boys. This is my kind of a filly. Fresh and sweet as a cattle range in April.
Kildare, there's only one explanation. This man's worse shape than we thought.
All right now, Buffalo. All you have to do is just stand there behind the fluorescent screen and relax.
Like this, huh?
That's right now. We may have to try a barium milkshake later, but we'll have a look first without it. Are you ready, Dr. Gillespie?
Anytime, Jimmy. Anytime. Parker, turn off that examination light.
All right, Doctor.
Boys, you sure this ain't gonna hurt me none?
Don't you worry, Buffalo. I'm right here with you.
Yeah, I'd say that any danger which may be threatening you is not from the X-ray machine.
Well, but it makes a fella feel kind of immodest to have a contraption looking right through your innards this way.
Don't worry. You won't feel a thing.
Ready, Jimmy?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Let's see now. Esophagus here. And...
Oh, this would be a mighty fine thing for a poker game. You could see right through the card.
Lungs are clear.
You could see the aces. How about it, boys? Are you finding anything?
Not yet. You know, there seems to be some distortion of the stomach, though.
Yeah, I noticed that, Jimmy. But what I don't see...
Look. Over here.
Huh? Well, now, what in the tarnation can...
Don't you recognize what it is?
Recognized by the great horn spoon.
Fantastic.
Well, boys, let's have a showdown. What am I suffering from?
Your teeth, Buffalo.
My teeth?
Mm-hmm. From that dental bridge work you lost last night. You swallowed it. It's lodged in your stomach.
Well, holy cow. That's why I couldn't find it nowhere.
Well, you weren't looking in the right place, that's all. Anyway, we found it now, and as soon as we get it out of your stomach, you'll be in first-class shape again.
Now, wait just a minute. There ain't nobody gonna cut me open.
Oh, I don't think an operation will be necessary. I think we can get the thing out with an esophagoscope.
What?
Esophagoscope.
Oh.
It's an instrument designed to reach down a patient's throat and into his stomach.
Just like a darn sword swallower. No, you don't, boys. That is out.
Now, let's be reasonable about this. If that thing isn't removed right away, it may cause serious trouble for you.
I don't give a hoot and a holler what it may cause. And there's a six-shooter down there in my room that says ain't nobody gonna cut me open nor shove nothing down my throat. And that's for sure. That's for dang sure.
Well, I don't know what to do, Dr. Gillespie. If he won't give his permission, we can't force him to go through with it.
Well, confound it, Jimmy. He's got to go through with it. He can't go walking around with his stomach full of teeth.
Oh, I feel so sorry for poor Buffalo, and he's such a wonderful man, too.
The cattle range in April Parker is speaking.
That's just his way of being gallant and charming.
Why, you've got yourself thrown, hog-tied, and ready for branding before he's even swung his lariat.
That's all right, Dr. Gillespie. You can tell by the way he talks. He knows a pretty girl when he sees one.
No, come in, Dr. Carew.
Gentlemen, I just saw your diagnosis in the Buffalo Barney case.
Yes, another oddity for the hospital files.
That man himself is an oddity, Dr. Kildare.
Careful, Carew. You're speaking of the man Parker loved.
Oh! Why, Miss Parker, I certainly hope you're not guilty of any irregularity.
Of course not. Dr. Gillespie, sometimes you make me so mad,
An eccentric sort of woman. Well, fortunately, gentlemen, it shouldn't take long to remove those dentures and get rid of this Buffalo person once and for all.
I'm afraid it's not that simple, Dr. Carew. He's refused to let us do anything at all for him.
But he can't do that. Why, he's already incensed the entire fourth floor by playing that guitar and singing at the top of his voice. The man is utterly mad.
Oh, now that's unkind, Dr. Carew. Besides, Buffalo seems to have quite a high regard for you. In fact, he was asking whether you might be related to an old acquaintance of his named Three-Fingered Tom Carew.
Dr. Kildare, I can assure you that no member of my family has ever been referred to as Three-Fingered Tom.
Oh, that's exactly what we told Buffalo Barney.
And in a way, it's too bad, Carew. You and our elderly cowboy patient might have become close friends.
I can hardly imagine myself becoming close friends, as you call it.
Yes, I know, Dr. Carew. However, we have an idea.
Idea?
Yes. Yes, if you were to tell Buffalo Barney that you are related to Three-Fingered Tom, nephew, I think.
Nephew?
That's right, sure. He believes you to be a relative of a friend of his.
Then he'll accept your advice and give his permission for immediate treatment, don't you see?
Not too clearly.
Carew, it'll solve the problem and nothing flat.
You think so?
Oh, yes, indeed I do. And now we'll excuse you so you can go up and tell him right this minute.
Dr. Kildare, why are you pushing me?
Well, we don't want to detain you, Dr. Carew. Here's the door.
Dear.
Confound it, Jimmy. He'll bungle it just as sure as you're born.
You had a premonition that something was going to happen. I don't know. Maybe we'd better follow him.
Well, there's Buffalo's room right ahead, Jimmy. Everything seems to be quiet around the old corral.
Yes, even the guitar is apparently getting a temporary rest.
Dear.
What's the matter, Carew?
Good heavens, gentlemen, you like you whopper John Stiffy cattle, fill you full of lead. I'll ventilate. He'll do it, too. Where's my brushes at?
Hey, come on in here. This room is empty. Now, be calm, Dr. Carew. Now, what's this all about?
Well, when I told him I was the nephew of Three-Fingered Tom, he reached for his gun. He says he's had a feud with that family, and he'll kill any of them on sight.
Well, Carew, now we all have to go sometime. And at least you'll be dying with your boots on.
Please, Dr. Gillespie, this is not an occasion for levity.
There you are, Carew.
Oh, dear.
I seen you sneak in here, you wall-eyed sidewinder.
Now, Mr. Buffalo, let's be reasonable.
You're going to meet your maker. You're drawing your final breath right now.
Hey, take it easy.
If you got any last words, spit 'em out.
Oh, dear, I think I'm going to...
Well, lucky yonder. Son of a gun, keel right on over. Boys, get a doctor.
Get a doctor. Buffalo, put that confounded pistol away before it goes off and hurts somebody.
Why, heck, fire, it ain't loaded with nothing but blanks. Hey, Buffalo Barney McClure wouldn't never shoot an unarmed man. I was just a funning him.
It's too bad he didn't know it. He's out like a light.
Buffalo! Oh, Buffalo! Are you all right?
Oh, shucks, honey, I'm all right, but this here Carew feller's done swooned plumb away.
Well, good heavens. We've got to do something.
Out of the mouths of babes.
Parker, would it be too much of an imposition on a young filly to ask her to trot down to the dispensary and bring some smelling salts for dangerous Dan Carew?
We will return to the story of Dr. Kildare in just a moment. Continue with the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Oh, Kildare.
Busy, Dr. Gillespie?
No. Come on in, Jimmy. Come in. How's your patient?
Oh, self-styled grand old man of the West is propped up in bed serenading Prairie Flower Parker at the moment. And Carew? Well, he's resting quietly. Locked up in his suite.
He ought to be locked up somewhere.
I don't know. I think he'd manage to get into some kind of a predicament even in a padded cell.
Yeah, the nincompoop.
And since that idea of ours didn't work, you still got the problem of Buffalo. What are we going to do now?
Release him and forget about him, as long as he's so confounded stubborn.
Well, that's all we can do, I guess, unless he decides to cooperate. But I hate to leave it that way. It's dangerous.
Yeah, that bridge work could start an irritation that might become pretty serious in a little while. But what can you do?
It's just it. I don't know. Wish I did.
Jimmy, a doctor can't afford to worry about impossibilities. Once he's done all he can, well, he's got to let it go at that.
How can you be sure that you've done all you can? I mean, sometimes you have...
Oh, the violet is blooming in Texas, but they won't bloom for me very long.
Well, now, it's our little girl of the Golden West.
No, I'm just so happy today, Dr. Gillespie, that it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter at all.
But why so starry-eyed, Parker? I didn't know you were such a great lover of Western folk songs.
No, but it's the way Buffalo sings them, Dr. Kildare. He's terrific.
Mm-hmm. Only a cowboy's sweetheart.
He's such a man of the great outdoors. A man's man, if you know what I mean.
Well, then where do you come in?
I think that once a man has lived in the Western range country, there's a flavor that clings to him the rest of his life.
Yeah, sure. Especially to his boots.
And what a life for a girl. Up early in the morning to watch the rosy-fingered dawn steal out of the east.
While you're chopping firewood for the kitchen stove.
Then down to the little house and back to gather up the eggs for breakfast.
Oh, so you're going to keep chickens on the ranch.
Well, a few hens, I think. Just for the eggs. Oh, none of this is real, of course, Dr. Gillespie. I'm just dreaming, that's all.
Well, Parker, as long as that's what you're doing, it'd be nice if you could dream up some way of getting Buffalo to let us take that bridge work from his stomach.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, Dr. Kildare. He's already agreed.
He's already what?
Agreed to let you go ahead with the treatment.
Ooh.
You see, he's doing it for me. You should never underestimate a girl's influence on a man's heart.
It's not his heart, Parker. It's his stomach. And if you're a girl, I'm a mere puling infant.
Oh!
You're looking a gift horse in the mouth, Dr. Gillespie. Come on, let's go to work.
Why, shucks, boys, when that fine little woman asked me to do it for her sake, I just melted away like a snowball in humor.
Well, Parker's usually better known for putting on the chill rather than taking it off.
Well, I'll tell you, boys, when a pretty gal starts to sugaring me up, I get as skittish as a bobtail pony in fly time.
And apparently the same effect can be achieved by a horse-faced old maid.
Doc, I sure would hate to think you was casting some of them mad aspersions on that little gal.
No, Buffalo, nothing like that. Dr. Gillespie has a peculiar sense of humor, that's all.
Yeah, I'm a veritable clown.
As a matter of fact, I've often suspected him of being an unsuccessful suitor for the affections of that same little lady.
Kildare.
Well, Doc, all I can say is let the fight be fair, and I hope the best man wins.
Well, I hope not. What the tarnation would I do with her? Come in.
Well, howdy, Miss Parker.
Howdy, Buffalo. I sure hope you're... Oh, Dr. Gillespie.
Howdy, Parker.
I have everything ready now in the X-ray room. You can go ahead whenever you like.
Good. Let's get started then.
Now, just hold your horses a minute there, boys. I was hoping that maybe we could do this thing tomorrow or maybe the next day.
There's no point in putting it off. The sooner it's done, the quicker it's over.
Yeah, but doggone it. More I think about having that easel of whatchamacallit shoved down my gut, the more I just wonder.
But, Buffalo.
Uh-huh.
You just can't back out now. Why, you've already promised the little lady there.
Yeah, I know it. Oh, darn it, but I'd rather be hog-tied and branded.
Courage, Buffalo. The eyes of Texas are upon you.
They are?
And a promise is a promise.
Doc, I reckon you're right at
Of
that.
course I am. Why, it's a matter of honor between a man and his own conscience.
You're speaking a language we savvy out in God's country, mister.
Then what do you say?
Why, my duty's as clear as the beller of a bull calf on a frosty morning. Miss Parker, would you do me the honor of handing me my boots?
I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I will not do it. I positively and utterly refuse even to consider doing it, and that is final.
But, Dr. Carew, there's no reason to be scared of him now.
No, he can't bite you. His teeth are right there on the table.
I am not scared. I simply will not have anything more to do with that man.
Well, in that case, Dr. Carew, I'm afraid you'd better expect trouble.
Trouble?
Oh, yes. Yes, there's no doubt but what he'll take your refusal as a personal insult.
Oh, dear.
And, of course, by the code of the West, that calls for a gunfight.
Oh, dear, dear.
This time with real bullets, not blanks.
Oh, dear, dear, dear.
I imagine he's a deadly shot.
Oh, dear, 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 dear.
Oh, suppose we go pay our respects to your dear, dear friend, Buffalo Barney McClure.
Oh, dear.
Just stay calm now, Carew. Remember, you've got nothing to lose but your life.
It could be a trap, gentlemen. A sinister, diabolical plot of some sort.
Well, we'll soon find out. Here's his room.
Oh, dear. Dr. Kildare, you open the door.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Now, you too, eh, Brutus? All right. Well.
Like this, Buffy.
Oh, a shucking, Sugarfoot, you're doing fine. Only you ought to put your other arm around like this.
Why, Buffy, I'm surprised at you.
I don't blame you, Parker. So am I.
Dr. Kildare.
Well, now, come on in, boys. Step right in. I was just giving the little lady here a lesson on the guitar. She sure does catch on fast.
So I noticed.
Oh!
Buffalo, we brought Dr. Carew up to see you.
Well, now, that is darn nice of you, boys. But where's he at?
Right here behind me. He's shy, you know. Gun shy.
Oh, there ain't no call to feel that way about it. Howdy, Doc.
How do you do, Mr. Buffalo? Well, I better run along now.
Wait just a minute now. Don't you go hightailing it off somewheres. Partner, I want to shake your hand.
Well, all right, if you insist. There.
No hard feelings, Doc, about that little joke of mine?
Oh, no, not at all, Mr. Buffalo. It's quite all right. And really, I must hop along now.
Now, hold your horses. I was figuring we might have a friendly little game of poker to cement our friendship.
Poker? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I only play a little bridge occasionally.
Bridge? Doc, that very word makes me sick at my stomach. Miss Parker, would you do me the favor to reach down inside that guitar and latch on to a deck of cards?
Now, really, Mr. Buffalo, I tell you,
Shucks, now, don't you worry, Doc. We'll figure out some simple little easy game.
Yes, I know, but...
And another thing, Miss Parker, hand me my six shooter there.
Of course, Buffy.
No, just a moment.
This won't hurt you, Doc. Only take a couple of minutes. You won't feel a thing.
Now, please, careful now. No.
You see, Doc, you wasn't in no danger. I just using blanks.
Well, never mind, Buffalo. I don't think he hears you.
Parker, will you go get those smelling salts again? The intrepid Dr. Carew is just swooned plumb away.
In just a moment, we will return to the story of Dr. Kildare. And now, once again, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie. Good morning, gentlemen.
Oh, good morning, Dr. Carew.
Well, now, you look as though a caterpillar had just eaten your favorite gardenia. What's wrong, Carew?
I have been made a victim of chicanery.
Oh?
I have been taken in by a card shopper, as I believe the expression is. And you, gentlemen, are to blame for it.
Uh-huh. Buffalo Barney, eh? What was the game?
Something called three-card Monte. It sounded so simple when he explained it.
Three-card Monte. I thought that went out with high-button shoes.
Well, I can assure you that it didn't.
How much, Dr. Carew?
$261.
Wow. Oh, good morning, Parker.
Good morning, Dr. Gillespie. Dr. Kildare? Dr. Carew?
Well, now, this doesn't sound like love's young dream.
Dr. Gillespie. Mr. McClure was released from this hospital a couple of hours ago.
Hmm?
And I don't ever want to hear his name mentioned again.
What happened?
His wife met him in a taxi.
His wife?
It seems that she's a bareback rider with the same Wild West show he's in. And furthermore, she looks it.
Miss Parker, as a fellow victim of that same scoundrel, may I offer you a cup of coffee at Sullivan's?
Why, thank you, Dr. Carew. I heard about that card game. But after all, what he took from me was something more precious than just money.
Hmm?
My whole heart and soul. Oh, thank you.
Well, Dr. Gillespie, it would seem that Buffalo Barney was quite an operator. I guess we're lucky he didn't put the bite on us.
Jimmy, speak for yourself.
What?
Just before he left this morning, he sold me 2 tickets to that Wild West show here.
Well, what's wrong with that? I'd kind of like to see it myself.
Well, so would I. But according to the morning paper, the show wound up its New York engagement last night.
You have just heard the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lou Ayres and Lionel Barrymore. This program was written by Les Crutchfield and directed by William P. Russo. Original music was composed and conducted by Walter Schumann. Supporting cast included Virginia Gregg, Ted Osborne, and Barton Yarborough. Dick Joy speaking.
Our next broadcast is a radio mystery drama which ran from May 16, 1942 until September 27, 1955 on CBS Radio Network. The show was also broadcast in Chicago and over Armed Forces Radio. On the West Coast, it was sponsored by the Signal Oil Company. That whistle is your signal for the Signal Oil program. The program was also adapted into a film noir series by Columbia Pictures in 1944. Each episode began with the sound of footsteps and a person whistling. The haunting signature theme tune was composed by Wilbert Hatch and featured Dorothy Roberts whistling with an orchestra. We present to you The Whistler on HOJO Radio.
Wait a minute. Have you heard the strange tales of the Whistler?
I'm the Whistler.
I refuse to accept the responsibility of the failure of our marriage. I know who caused it, and I know who she is. I refuse to give you up to her. And so, I have made a decision.
Another Sunday night, and again CBS presents The Whistler.
I, the Whistler, know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales, many secrets hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. And so I tell you tonight the unusual story of the other woman. Olivia Martin paces the floor of her bedroom. She's been pacing for hours, and it is now long past midnight. Her husband, Fred Martin, did not come home to dinner. He was detained at his office on business. So he said. But Olivia knows that it isn't his advertising business that detains him. And she knows, too, that tonight will be the climax and the final crash of their marriage. The end of everything for Olivia. She knows what Fred is going to say tonight. For months she has been fearful of this moment, and now it has come.
Olivia, you awake?
Yes? Come in.
I thought you might be asleep.
How could I sleep? You know better than that.
It's 1 o'clock, isn't it?
Yes, Fred.
I didn't realize it was that late.
You don't usually bother to see if I'm awake.
Don't I?
For the past 2 months, you passed right on to your own room.
Yes. Yes, I guess I have.
Get your business settled?
Yes. Yes, I had quite a bit to attend to.
Have dinner at the club?
Oh, yes, at the club.
Then why didn't you answer my call? I had you paged. They said you hadn't been there this evening.
Oh? Perhaps I hadn't arrived yet.
Really?
What did you want?
I don't know. I don't remember now what I called you for.
I see. Well, I think I'll turn in. Good night, Olivia.
Why don't you say it?
Say what?
What you came here to say.
Don't you think I had anything particular to say?
I know. I don't know how, but I've known all evening you were planning to tell me something when you got in.
Oh, that's nonsense.
No, Fred. I've known for months this was coming. I know what sort of business detained you. Another woman.
What?
First, I believed you. As the weeks passed and I realized you were growing colder, the whole thing became clear to me. Then I knew you were evading me. That you were lying about those business appointments at night.
Go on.
We've been married 10 years, Fred. I've done everything humanly possible to make our marriage a success.
Have you?
I think I have. At least I've tried.
That's your opinion, Olivia.
Why didn't you come right out and tell me about this woman at the very beginning?
Why should I?
Oh, Fred. Think over. I've tried not to believe it.
Now, let's not have a scene, Olivia.
Would you expect me to do laugh at all?
No, not you, Olivia. Certainly not you.
I suppose you'll say it's all my fault. I'm to blame for everything. Well, isn't that what you're trying to say?
I haven't said anything.
Then why don't you? Say something. Why do you beat about the bush? You came here to say something. Say it.
Very well, since you put it that way, I will. I'm going out of town tomorrow on business. I'm sending my things to the club. When I return, I intend to live there. Wait a minute, Olivia. I haven't finished yet. I want you to get a divorce on any grounds you please. Desertion or whatever you wish.
Divorce? Do you mean that?
I do.
Very well. If that's the way you want it, there's nothing else I can do.
No, Olivia, nothing. Good night.
So Olivia sobs herself to sleep. And when morning comes, she finds Fred gone and his things already sent to the club. All day she wanders aimlessly about the house like a lost soul. Then as night falls and her loneliness increases, she is seized with a horrible feeling of hopelessness. A strange depression comes over her, and she sits down at the desk and writes a note.
Fred, the very thought of losing you, the thought of divorce, the thought of giving you up for another woman is more than I can bear. The shame, the disgrace, the scandal of it all would, I know, drive me insane. Regardless of what you may think, I refuse to accept the responsibility of the failure of our marriage. I know who caused it, and I know who she is. You'd never be happy with a woman of her type. You'd be throwing your life away. I refuse to give you up to her. And so, I have made a decision. Goodbye, Fred. Olivia.
Rita addresses the note to Fred at his club, steps out and drops it in the nearest mailbox. She wanders about for a while, then returns to the empty house, takes some sleeping tablets, and goes to bed. Then, the next morning at Fred's office, Doris, Fred's private secretary, is going over some papers.
Yes? Very well. Put him on. Hello? Yes, Mr. Goldberg. This is Doris Hammond. Mr. Martin's out of town for a few days. Yes. Well, Miss Bartow is head of the art department. I'll have her check on it right away. Yes. Yes, goodbye.
Yes?
Tell Rita Bartow to come in here, please.
Miss Bartow isn't coming in today. She's staying home. Has a bad cold.
Oh, I see. Well, we'll send Jack Mallory in then.
Yes, Miss Hammond.
You want to see me, Miss Hammond?
Oh, yes, Jack. I understand Rita's ill. Isn't coming in today.
No, I guess not.
Well, Mr. Goldberg over at Lake Laboratories wants to know which ad she intended to run next week.
Only Rita knows about that.
Perhaps we'd better send them over to Rita's apartment and have her select the one she wants to use.
Very well. Who shall I send?
Well, I don't know of anyone who'd rather go on that errand than you, Jack.
Well, I'll go if you insist.
I don't think I have to insist, especially where Rita's concerned.
All right. I'll run over there.
I thought you would.
Thanks, Doris. See you later.
Hello?
Rita, this is Doris Hammond.
Yes, Doris.
How do you feel?
All fair.
Good. Mr. Goldberg wants to know which ad you selected for next week. I'm sending Jack Mallory over with the layout. He should be there in a short while.
Very well. I've forgotten which it was.
And send Jack back as soon as possible. He'll hang around all day if you don't.
I will, don't worry.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello, Rita. How do you feel?
Oh, all right. Just didn't feel like coming to the office today.
I thought you had a bad cold.
No, not too bad. I'll be all right tomorrow.
Mr. Goldberg wants you to select a layout for next week. Here they are. Which do you want?
Well, I planned on this one. But I think you should make this section in red.
Oh, I see. That's easy. I'll fix it up in a jiffy.
Stands out better this way. We'll use this one for the week following.
Okay. You look mighty lovely, Rita.
Thanks.
Where were you going, all dressed up?
Well, I've got to go out of town this afternoon on that Henderson deal. I wanted to put it off until next week, but Mr. Martin insisted that I get it settled as soon as possible. I'll be back on the afternoon train tomorrow.
You shouldn't be running around too much, darling.
Well, I don't really have a cold. It's that sinus.
You've had a lot of trouble with that in the past year or so.
Yes. There's nothing much can be done about it, I guess. Thank heavens it only strikes me in winter.
Why don't you try a change of climate, Rita?
Change of climate.
I should think you'd like California. I've always wanted to go there. I've had an idea that I could do very well. Some nice jobs in the movie art departments.
I'm not interested in movies.
I thought about going out there and settling down, buying a nice little home and really enjoying life.
Well, why should a bachelor do all that? You have ideas about getting married, Jack?
Yes. Yes, I have, Rita.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
What time's your plane leave?
At 2.
How about a little lunch while you're waiting? Something warm.
Very well.
Oh, leave your bag here. We'll pick it up later.
All right.
I've got something important to talk to you about, Rita.
Important?
Yeah. I got a nice raise this week.
That's fine, Jack.
I want to ask you a question about you and me.
Yes? Go ahead.
No, not now. Come on, we'll talk about it during lunch.
Meanwhile, Olivia Martin, having made a decision and formulated a plan, visits her husband's office and calls on Doris, the secretary.
Good afternoon, Miss Hammond.
Oh, how do you do, Mrs. Martin? I was just going out to lunch. Would you join me?
I'm sorry, Miss Hammond. I'm afraid I haven't time. I'm in rather a hurry. I have a number of things to do this afternoon.
Well, can I help you?
I suppose you're quite busy yourself.
Oh, yes, my work is always double when Fred leaves town.
Fred?
Yes, Mr. Martin.
Oh, my husband.
I suppose it does seem strange for an employee to call him Fred. But For some reason, I've gotten into the habit and can't seem to break it. He doesn't seem to mind, however.
That's so. I can imagine he wouldn't. After all, you're like one of the family, aren't you, Miss Hammond?
Yes, I've been here for 2 years.
You've been Fred's private secretary for how long now?
Almost a year. It doesn't seem that long.
Pleasant work, isn't it?
Most interesting. You've no idea how absorbing this business can be, Mrs. Martin.
Well, I realize it must have a certain amount of extremely interesting moments.
You should come around more often, Mrs. Martin.
How right you are. Things might have been different.
Different?
Yes. I mean, if I had taken an active interest in the business, well, at times it gets rather dull waiting at home, especially on long evenings when your husband has to stay in town on business.
Well, I suppose it is rather dull under those conditions.
Yes. But I mustn't take up your time with personal problems. I want you to have a check drawn for me for $500.
Very well, I'll attend to it at once.
Have you heard from Fred since he left?
No, I haven't.
He phoned me this morning.
You did?
Yes. He left an important paper at home, and he knew I was flying to Detroit tonight to visit my relatives, so he wants me to drop it off for him at Buffalo.
Buffalo? I thought he was in Boston.
Yes, he was. But he had to rush over to Buffalo. Some unexpected business came up, and he says he needs you very badly.
He wants me to come to Buffalo?
Yes. I told him I'd notify you and bring you with me. I'll be leaving the airport about 5:30. Can you meet me there, or shall I pick you up here?
Well, I'll meet you at the airport. I'll have to run home for a few minutes. Is there anything in particular he wants me to bring?
No. Nothing but the paper he left at home.
Very well. I'll be at the airport around 5.
Do you mind flying, Miss Hammond?
No, not at all.
That's good. My plane is a small cabin job. Might be a little bumpy, but I'm rather a good pilot.
I'll see you at 5.
Shortly after noon, rain begins to fall. Round 2, the storm becomes heavier. Then Jack returns.
Jack Mallory, where on earth have you been? Do you know what time it is?
Yes, I'm sorry. I got to talking and didn't realize the hour.
Well, what about the layout? Did Rita select one?
Yeah, this one. She made a couple of changes in it.
So? What changed?
Oh, nothing important. Just wanted this section set up in red. Stands out better.
Yes, so it does.
Well, I'd better put it through right away. I'm sorry to have been so late with it.
I'm glad you got back with it before I left.
Left? Oh, where were you going?
Mr. Martin phoned. He wants me to join him in Buffalo. Something important has come up.
Buffalo?
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was in Boston.
Well, he had to run over there in a hurry.
Buffalo, huh? Strange.
What's strange?
Huh? Oh, well, I mean his being in Buffalo.
What's strange about it?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose he could be in Buffalo.
Well, what's the matter with you, Jack?
Why? Oh, nothing at all.
Here, lean over here.
What? Why?
A little closer.
What's the matter?
Well, of all things, now I've seen everything. You've actually had a drink. You of all people.
Well, I don't approve of it as a rule, but I walked back from Rita's place. I got my feet a little wet in the rain. Felt kind of chilly. I was afraid I was catching cold, so I dropped in at a bar on the way back and had a drink.
Oh, I hope you don't get sick. Can't afford to have you and Rita both out.
Oh, that's right. A lot of work to be done this week.
Here, take off that top coat. It's damp. Let me have it. I'll hang it over the radiator. Well.
What's wrong?
How on earth did you do this? You spilled ink on the front of your coat.
Yeah. Well, what do you know? Fine thing. I just got it yesterday. I must have done that over at Rita's when I blocked that section in red.
You'll have to get it out as soon as possible. Hand me a towel from that closet and dampen it.
Oh, don't bother, Doris. I'll have it cleaned tomorrow.
Get some of it out now. Thanks. Certainly hard to get off.
It's probably dried in by now. The cleaners can get it out.
Strangest ink I ever saw. Doesn't seem to be ink. More like blood, if you ask me.
Blood? Let me see. It is strange. Let me see that layout. It does seem a little darker than this on the card. Maybe the cloth has something to do with it.
Perhaps.
Better let the cleaners worry about it. What time are you leaving, Doris?
In a few minutes. I'm flying from the airport around 5.
Well, good luck, Doris. See you in a few days.
Thanks, Jack. Take care of yourself. And lay off the liquor. That's bad stuff to get started on.
Are you kidding?
What do you think?
For a few brief moments, Dora stands staring after Jack as he passes through the door to the outer office. Then she picks up the towel, studies it for a moment. Suddenly she tosses it into the desk drawer, leaves the office, and goes home. Then around 5, Doris meets Olivia at the airport.
Oh, Mrs. Martin, do you think we should try it tonight?
You mean you'd rather not go? Are you frightened?
Oh, no. No, not exactly frightened, but...
Well, the storm's passed. What's wrong?
What? I don't really know. Nothing, I guess.
Well, nothing to worry about. I've flown this plane in all kinds of weather.
Yes, of course.
Well, we're all set. Let's climb in.
I wish I could have talked to Fred. I haven't the slightest idea what this is all about.
You'll know what it's all about. In no time at all.
What?
We'll get there in a couple of hours. Don't worry.
How far have we come now?
Oh, I don't know. About 75 miles, I should say.
Where are we? I can't see a thing.
We're not far from Monticello.
How can you tell? Can you see that down there?
No, not too well. I'm flying by instrument.
I hope we don't run into a storm. Frankly, I don't like to be in a plane during a storm.
Well, I don't know of anyone who really does.
We could have taken a train.
We could have, but on this particular trip, I was in somewhat of a hurry to get to my destination. Tell me, Doris. May I call you Doris?
Well, of course.
Aren't you just a bit upset over this trip?
What do you mean?
Just that.
Do I seem upset?
Yes, you do. Something playing on your mind?
Yes. Yes, there is something bothering me.
So? What is it?
I'd rather not say.
A guilty conscience?
Guilty conscience?
Isn't that what it is?
What are you talking about?
Are you looking forward to a nice visit in Buffalo?
Why, I don't know. I don't consider it a visit. It's part of my job.
And a very pleasant job, too. I'm sure you'll miss the job and its attendant interest. Working late at night, several nights a week with friends.
What do you mean by that? Why should I lose my job?
Your job isn't all you're going to lose.
Do you know what you're saying?
Yes, and you know what I'm talking about.
You're crazy.
Fred isn't in Buffalo.
Where is he?
I don't know. But wherever he is, you'll never see him again, you little cheat.
Put this plane down and let me out. You're mad.
I'm going to put it down, straight down on its nose.
What?
Fred won't think you're so attractive next time he sees you.
No. No, you're out of your mind. You can't do this. You can't. You can't.
Put that key back in the switch.
I won't.
You hear me?
I won't. You must.
Give me that key.
Pull up. Don't scream. Pull up.
By some strange quirk of fate, Olivia is foiled in her plan of suicide and murder. A farmer rushes to the crash, finds Olivia thrown clear and still alive. Now, an hour later, in a farmhouse.
Well, how do you feel, man?
What? Why? Who are you?
I'm Doc Sanders.
Doctor? Where am I?
You're on Jake Barrett's farm. Found you right after the crash. Believe me, you're mighty lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
You were thrown clear when you hit the treetops. Got off with a few scratches and a couple of rattling good bumps, but not a busted bone anyplace.
What happened to my passenger?
Well, I'm sorry to say she's dead.
Dead? She's dead.
Yeah, she wasn't as lucky as you.
I'm lucky, am I?
Don't you think so?
No. No, I don't. I'm not lucky. That isn't the way.
Oh, now, take it easy. I know how you feel, but you couldn't help it, ma'am. These things just happen sometimes.
No, they don't just...
What were you going to say, ma'am?
Nothing. I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh. Well, they located your husband, ma'am. Jake's driving you back to New York tonight. Now, you'll be all right.
plan was only partly successful. Now you've got to face Fred. And how are you going to explain the situation? How are you going to explain Doris's presence in your plane? Fred arrives in town, spends a few hours at his club. Then in the morning he visits Olivia.
Hello, Olivia.
Oh, Fred, it was terrible.
Yes, I know. I'm very sorry, Olivia.
I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden the motor cut off. I couldn't find a clear spot any place. I thought I saw a clearing, but it was more trees. And with no motor, I couldn't pull up.
You were very fortunate.
Yes, I suppose so.
Where were you going?
Why, well, after you left, I got to thinking things over, and I just couldn't remain another night in this house alone. So I decided to go to my sister's in Detroit for a while.
Mm-hmm. Why did you fly?
I don't know. I just wanted to get away as fast as possible.
Wasn't it a rather bad night for flying?
No, I've flown in worse weather. Storm had cleared.
I see. I was never so shocked in my life.
Oh, Fred, so sorry. So terribly sorry.
No. Get over yourself. You couldn't help it. It was just one of those things. I know how you feel. Doris was she was a lovely girl. It's a shame.
Yes. She was young. Had everything to live for. I know how you must feel, Fred.
Yes, I'll certainly miss her.
Can you ever forgive me, Fred?
Of course, Olivia.
I never want to fly a plane again, never.
Tell me, how did Doris happen to be with you? Where was she going?
Well, she said she wanted to visit some friend in Buffalo. Asked me if I'd drop her off there.
How did she know you were flying that way?
Well, you see, I went to your office and told her I was going to Detroit and asked her to draw some money for me. Told her I'd be glad to put her down in Buffalo, that's all.
I can't imagine why she'd leave the office in the middle of the week to visit friends out of town. That wasn't like Doris.
Maybe she had some business to attend to on the side.
Maybe. Well, I can't imagine what it might be.
Maybe it was personal business.
Possibly. Olivia, are you telling me the truth?
Why? What do you mean?
Have you told me the real reason you wanted to leave town?
Well, certainly.
Weren't you, running from something?
Well, what would I be running from?
You were carrying out a plan, weren't you?
Plan? What plan?
Didn't you have a definite idea in mind when you wrote that note to me?
Note?
It seems you've forgotten the note. Why don't you tell me the truth, Olivia?
Yes, I did make up my mind to do something terrible. I was going to kill her and myself. I couldn't stand it any longer. But after I mailed it to you, I seemed to come to my senses. I saw things clearly. Realized how awful such a thing would be. I just couldn't go through with it.
So you decided to forget the idea and go on to Detroit?
Yes. I swear I changed my mind about killing her. I couldn't be a murderer.
Do you really expect me to believe that?
Fred, you must believe me. You must, please. I know what you think, the note and everything that's happened.
That note is certainly definite evidence against you.
The note? Yes. Oh, Fred, I swear I didn't.
That's easy to say, but the note is too convincing.
Where is the note? You must destroy it. Don't tell anyone about it, please, Fred.
What time was it when you visited my office?
Oh, I don't know. About noon, I think.
And you mailed the note the night before?
Yes.
And you made up your mind to leave town. You went to the office, told Doris about it, and left at 5.
Yes, that's right.
And what did you do in the meantime?
Oh, I can't remember. I'm so confused. I went shopping for a while.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I don't know, but I swear I changed my plan by the time morning came.
You're going to have a hard time proving all this.
It's the truth. Why shouldn't they believe the truth?
The circumstances all tie in too well. We had separated the day before. I moved to the club. Several people knew about that. And in the note you said you knew who the other woman was. And stated clearly what you intended to do about it.
I know.
Then how else can the police look at it?
Police? What do they know about it?
They've been putting 2 and 2 together.
But the note? How do they know what's in the note?
They were waiting for me when I got back from Boston. They had already found the note. They showed it to me. That's where you made your big mistake, Olivia.
Fred, they really think I killed her? Murdered her?
They do.
What are they going to do?
The detectives are here now. They want to talk with you.
Detectives? Yes. I'll be calm.
Very well. I'll come in, Captain Evans.
Thank you.
Olivia, this is Captain Evans. And this is Lieutenant Davis.
How do you do?
Good morning, Mrs. Martin.
Did you gentlemen wish to see me?
Yes, would like to ask you a few questions.
Yes, of course. But I haven't done anything. I'm absolutely innocent.
Yes, I know, Mrs. Martin. We don't want to upset you. Just answer a few questions.
Very well.
Is it true that your husband left you a few days ago with the idea that you were to get a divorce?
Yes.
He took up residence at his club?
Yes.
You believe that your husband was in love with another woman?
I did.
Did you know who that woman was?
I did.
Did you object to his leaving you, getting a divorce?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Well, after he left you, did you write this note to him?
Yes. I wrote it, but
You mailed it to his club?
Yes.
Next day, you got some money at his office, about noon, and exactly 5 o'clock, you took off in your plane.
Yes, but I changed my mind. I couldn't go through with it, and I didn't. I swear I didn't.
Where were you, Mrs. Martin, between noon and 5 o'clock?
I went about town. I did a little shopping. I don't remember what else I did.
Can you prove where you were during that period?
No, I don't see how I could.
No one was with you during that time. Did you frequent any establishment where you were known?
No, I didn't. I saw no one I knew.
Are you sure, Olivia?
I'm positive. What difference does it make where I was between noon and 5 o'clock?
It makes a lot of difference. Because it was about that hour that Rita Bartow was stabbed to death in her apartment.
Rita Bartow? The head of the art department?
That's right. The weapon's not been found, and there were no clues to the identity of the murderer, excepting your note to your husband.
But Rita Bartow? What have I to do with her?
You said in your note here that you knew who the woman was. Rita Bartow was the other woman.
What? Then what about...
What about who? What were you going to say?
Nothing. I wasn't going to say anything. Not one thing.
Oh, yes, you were, Olivia. Yes, you were. You were going to say that you killed the wrong woman. Poor, innocent Doris Hammond. Of course, we know you didn't kill Rita Bartow, because Jack Mallory killed her when she turned him down and said she was going to marry Fred Martin. And Doris was the only one who knew about the bloodstains on Jack's coat. She was the only one who could have pinned it on Jack and cleared you, Olivia. But Doris is dead now, and you killed her. Killed the very one who could have saved you. What a shame.
CBS has presented The Whistler. Next week, same time.
I, the Whistler, will return to tell you another unusual tale. Good night.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You're listening to HOJO Radio. More classic old-time radio coming your way next.
Wait a minute. Have you heard the strange tales of the Whistler?
I'm the Whistler.
You promised me that you wouldn't gamble again. You've broken that promise, and I won't give you another cent. This time, John, you can work it out for yourself.
Another Sunday night, and again CBS presents The Whistler.
I, the Whistler, know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales, many secrets hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. And so I tell you tonight the amazing story of avarice. John Abbott lives in a vast house on the outskirts of town. But it isn't John's house. It belongs to his wife. John has never had a penny he could honestly call his own. But then John has always been lucky. John Abbott is somewhat of a gambler who was fortunate enough to marry a wealthy young widow, Marcia Howard, wife of the late motor magnate Burton Howard. But John has pulled a few tricks bordering on the shady side of late, and Marcia has come to distrust him. She has paid off a number of his gambling debts, but this time he's really in a spot. John got into a poker game with Mike Flynn, lost, and paid off with a worthless check.
Hello, Mike. How are you? I haven't seen you since that big night last week. Where have you been keeping yourself?
Where have you been keeping yourself?
Well, my wife's been rather ill, you know. I've intended to get in to see you and the boys for some time.
Did you try real hard, John?
Try? Why? What do you mean?
I kind of get an idea you were trying to avoid me.
Oh, why should I?
Would you have dropped in today if Muggsy hadn't tipped you off that I wanted to see you?
Why, of course I would.
You're a pig's eye.
I resent that, Mike.
You do? Well, I resent this.
What?
This rubber check. You got a lot of nerve horning in on a game when you can't pay off.
Why was it returned?
Insufficient funds, according to the slip.
Yeah, I can't understand that. Must be some mistake.
There's no mistake, John. You didn't have $4,000 in that bank, and you know you didn't. I checked on it.
Well, I'll take care of it. You've got nothing to worry about.
Then fork over.
I don't carry that much money on me.
Then you'd better dig it up, John.
Okay. I can't walk out and take it off a tree, you know.
You know where to get it in a minute.
Do I?
Sure. Your wife is rolling in money.
That's not as easy as you think. See, Marcia doesn't approve of gambling.
Neither do I. When you can't back your bid.
Well, I can get it. You've got to give me a little time. Take a few days.
John, I'll give you till Saturday at noon to get me that money.
Saturday? Well, that's almost impossible. This is Wednesday.
How much time do you need?
Well, I don't know, but I'll get it as soon as possible. Do you have to have cash?
Not necessarily.
I see.
What do you have in mind, John?
Why, nothing. Nothing at the moment.
Better think of something.
Yes, I will. Oh, I'll get it.
Any good security will do.
I quite understand.
But whatever it is, I'll expect it by noon Saturday. Otherwise, well, I could turn it over to the district attorney, or I could have a pal of mine take you for a little drive in the country some afternoon.
Oh, I'll get it, Mike. I'll get it. I'll have something for you Saturday at noon. I don't know what it'll be, but I'll have it.
That's fine, John. It's fine. I'll be expecting you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the extension.
Sure. Always glad to help out a friend.
Yes. Well, so long.
So long, John.
So John Abbott walks out of Mike's office and home in a deep fog, goes to his wife's room on the floor above, slips easily to the side of her bed.
Marcia?
Huh?
Marcia.
Oh, is that you, Nita?
Were you asleep, Marcia?
John.
I'm sorry if I awakened you.
What time is it?
A little afternoon.
Where's Nita?
I haven't seen your sister this morning. She's around someplace, I imagine.
What did you want, John?
I wanted to ask you something. That is, well, I have a favor to ask.
What's troubling you now, John?
I hate to bother you when you don't feel well, but I need a little money.
Money? What is it this time? Your brother again?
No, it doesn't concern Ellen.
That's a wonder. How much longer is he going to stay here?
I don't know. Is he so obnoxious?
I can't understand why a young fellow like Alan should be content to do nothing.
Oh, he'll get into something soon, dear.
I hope so. What do you need money for, John?
A note I had came due.
What kind of a note?
Just a note. I gave it some time ago.
How much?
$4,000.
$4,000?
Yes.
Do you mean to say that you owe someone $4,000?
I'm sorry, Marcia, but I do.
When did this happen?
Just a week or so ago.
You've been gambling again. Do you realize how many thousands of dollars I've given you to pay off such ridiculous debts?
Yes, Marcia, but you don't have to shout at me.
Only a month ago you promised you'd never gamble again. And now $4,000.
I didn't mean to get in so deeply, Marcia. I just dropped in to say hello to a few of the boys, and I had a few drinks, and before I realized it, I was in the hole.
Don't blame it on a few drinks. All you need is a deck of cards.
Oh, don't rub it in, Marcia. I feel badly enough about it.
You do. You sit in on any game you like, regardless of the stakes, and expect me to always pay off. What do you think I am, the mint?
Well, you're not broke, Marcia.
It's no fault of yours. If I let you handle my money, I wouldn't have a dime. What did you give, an IOU?
No, dear, I wrote a check.
A check? Why did you do that? You have no account of that size and never did.
Well, they wouldn't take my IOU.
Who wouldn't take it? Were you playing with Mike Flynn again?
Yes.
You're a fool, John, an impossible fool.
But that isn't the point, my dear. Will you help me?
No, John. You promised me that you wouldn't gamble again. You broke that promise, and I won't give you a dime. You can work it out for yourself.
Where would I get $4,000?
Why don't you try working for a change?
Well, I don't expect you to give it to me. I'll pay it back.
You pay it back? Do you think I believe that?
You act as though you were down to your last penny. What good does all that money do you anyway? What good will it ever do you?
More good than it would ever do you.
I might be able to get into some kind of business if I had enough capital.
Business? You?
Well, what's wrong with that? You talk as though I were a good-for-nothing loafer.
You are. You and your brother. I'm sorry I didn't know that before I married you. And now your brother's hanging around here. And what for? Pretending to be in love with my sister. I don't like him, and you can tell him to leave.
That's right. Get yourself excited over
Have a
nothing.
good reason to be excited.
You're not half as sick as you think. You have all the symptoms of a hypochondriac.
Get out of here. Get out of this room.
I'm going.
And tell your brother that I...
Marcia.
Oh.
Marcia.
What's going on in here? What was Marcia yelling about?
I don't know. She's fainted. She certainly can get worked up easily.
You'd better call Dr. Manning.
Very well. I'll call him from downstairs. Dr. Manning. Yes. This is John Abbott. I wonder if you could come over here. Marcia has had another spell. Yes. Very well. Goodbye.
What happened, John?
I don't know, Ellen. She gets excited over the least little thing.
Yeah? What was she yelling about?
Oh, I went in to ask her about something, and she blew up.
What did you say to her?
Why?
Was it something about me?
No, I needed a little money to cover a note. And I happened to ask her at the wrong moment.
Note? You mean a check, don't you?
Check? What do you mean?
That $4,000 check you gave Mike Flynn?
What do you know about that?
I heard about it.
So?
You think she'll let you have the money?
I don't know, Ellen. I rather think she will, eventually.
What do you mean, eventually? You've got to have it by Saturday.
Yes, that's right.
Sure a tough spot, John. I'd hate to be in your shoes.
Why?
Mike Flynn is a bad egg to fool around with.
I know how to take care of Mike.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm going out for a few moments. I'll be back by the time Dr. Manning gets here.
Okay.
John goes out and walks around for a while, pondering over his predicament. Alan sprawls on the sofa and studies his own personal problem. In a few moments, Nita, Marcia's young sister, comes down the stairs.
How is she, Nita?
She's a little better. I gave her some of her medicine and she pulled out of it.
What upset her?
Oh, it doesn't take much to upset Marcia. She's such an unreasonable woman.
I wonder what John said to her.
Probably some trivial little thing.
Maybe.
Sometimes I feel I can't stay here another day.
Why do you stay, Nita?
Well, I feel it's my duty to stay. It wouldn't be right to leave Marcia in this condition.
Is that the only reason for staying?
No,
Suppose she's angry because of my being here?
I don't know.
I don't think she likes me very much. I don't know why she should feel that way. I've tried to be nice to her.
She doesn't seem to like anyone very well. She makes herself miserable. No one seems to be able to do anything for her.
Suppose she resents your being here, Nita?
Why should she?
Oh, I don't know. She might invent some crazy idea and, well, I wouldn't want to see her get angry with you, Nita.
What reason would she have to do that?
Oh, I don't know. I was just talking, thinking out loud.
What are you trying to say?
Do you think that Marcia loves John?
I know she doesn't.
Do you believe that John loves Marcia?
I don't know. I don't see how he could, considering the way she treats him. Poor John is miserable. My heart aches for him.
Nita, you know that I love you very much. Don't you, darling?
Yes.
Please marry me, Nita.
Oh, I just can't, Alan. I know you love me, but
I know that I have nothing. But that'll change. I got a swell job coming up, and I'll make you very happy, Nita.
I believe you, Alan. I know you love me, but I just can't say yes because...
Because of John? John is a swell fella, Nita, but he's a lot older than you. Besides, he's married to Marcia. So what good does it do to you?
I can't help it, Alan. I just can't help it.
Do you think that John cares for you?
I think he does.
Has he told you so?
No, it doesn't matter. I worship him.
You'll never divorce Marcia. He can't afford to.
I know.
And what do you expect to happen? Are you waiting for Marcia to die? Is that it?
How can you say such a thing?
Oh, why not be frank? Marcia may live for years. The longer you stay around here, the worse it'll be for you. If you married me and got away from here for a while, you'd forget all about John.
I don't think so.
The longer you stay, the more miserable you'll become.
Perhaps. But I can't leave. I can't. I've tried.
Very well, Nita. But I think you're foolish. I'll leave you mine.
Please, Alan, let me alone. Don't say another word about it, please.
Okay. I won't say another word. Not another word.
Dr. Manning visits Marcia. John returns to the house. And now the doctor has come downstairs and asks John, Alan, and Nita to join him in the library.
I want to have a little talk with the three of you.
Yes?
About Marcia?
That's right.
How is she, Doctor?
She's much worse than when I saw her last.
Worse?
Yes. She's suffered some emotional upset. She can't afford to do that. Her condition is very, very serious. I've warned you before about the result of the slightest argument. I don't know what occurred this morning, but I warn you that another such occurrence will cost her life.
Is she that bad?
I'm going to be frank with you, John. For her own good, I had to tell her the truth. I think I should tell you.
The truth?
I doubt if Marcia will live more than a year.
What?
Yes. On the other hand, if she suffers no further emotional stress, she may live 2 or 3 years.
Poor Marcia.
I didn't realize it was that serious.
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but I feel that you should know all the truth.
It is quite a shock, Doctor, but I appreciate your letting me know.
Yes, we all do.
Of course.
Well, I must run along now. I want to have a few words with your housekeeper, Mrs. Simmons, about Marcia's diet.
Good day, Doctor, and thanks for coming over.
It's really serious. I thought Marcia was more or less of a hypochondriac. I really did.
Yes, so did I. Well, this puts a new light on the situation.
What situation?
Well, I'm sorry I caused Marcia to become upset.
Yes. We must be very careful from now on about what we say to her.
Yeah, that's right. Very careful. All of us.
Early next morning, John goes into town to have a talk with Mike Flynn, the gambler. Mike isn't in his office, so John drops over to the drugstore to purchase a few articles.
Well, how are you, John? I haven't seen you for a week or so. Where have you been keeping yourself?
Well, I've been rather busy the past few days.
Yes, what can I do for you?
Well, I have a list of things here. Quite a few items. I'll let you fix them up, and I'll call for them later.
Very well. Got some nice specials on today.
No, just what you see there on the list.
Oh, yes, of course. Now, let me see. Yes, Yes, I have everything here.
I'll be back. Hello, Mike. I was just up to your office.
So I hear. Got some good news for me, John?
Why, yes. That is, well, I think things are going to be all right.
That's all? I'm glad to hear it. For your sake.
I wanted to ask a little favor of you, Mike.
Favor?
Yes.
Well, that all depends on what it is. What you got in your mind, John?
Well, suppose we go over to your office.
Okay. Whatever you say.
Just wrap those things up, Mr. Smith. I'll call for them in half hour or so. Come on, Mike.
Then John returns home at noon. Now it is after 1. Lunch is over. And John sits at the desk in the library, lost in deep meditation. The library door opens and Nita slips quietly to John's side.
John?
Oh, yes, Nita. I didn't hear you come in.
I opened the door very quietly. I thought you might be taking a nap.
No. I was just thinking things over.
I know how you must feel, John.
I've developed a bit of a headache. I didn't sleep a wink last night.
I'm so sorry for you, John. May I rub your head? It might help a little.
Oh, thanks, Nita. I'm all tied up in knots.
Does that help?
Oh, yes. Helps a lot. Sweet of you, Nita. You're an awfully nice girl.
Thanks, John.
Yes, the man who gets you for a wife is certainly going to be lucky.
Think so?
I know so. Are you really in love, Nita?
Yes, John. I'm sure I am.
And I hope it lasts. But with a girl like you, sweet and kind and gentle, it's bound to last.
Yes?
You know, Alan is a very good boy, but he's got to be handled carefully. He's quite a bit like me. I know my shortcomings, and Alan has the same. We were both raised with a silver spoon in our mouths. Then we were suddenly thrown out into the world on our own, and we just couldn't take it. I had nothing to offer anyone, so I just followed the line of least resistance.
Have you, John?
Alan is just like me, but fortunately he's young enough to be changed. He can learn new tricks. The right girl could help. And you are the right girl.
Think so?
Yes. You're as different from your sister as night from day.
But I don't love Alan.
But you just said you did.
No, John, I didn't. I did say I was in love, but not with Alan.
But he's mad about you, Nita.
I know, he's nice, but I don't love him and never will.
Well, then if you're in love, and it isn't Alan, then who is he?
Don't you know?
No.
Oh, John. John.
Nita. Nita.
Oh, John, forgive me, but I can't help it.
What do you mean?
Don't you know, John?
Look at me, Nita.
Yes, John, I know it's despicable, but I can't help it. I love you.
Well, of all things. Nita.
I've loved you from the day we first met.
But, Nita, darling, what's ridiculous. You can't mean it.
I do. I've tried to fight it, but I can't.
I'm married to your sister.
Marcia doesn't love you, not the way I do, and you don't love Marcia.
How do you know that?
I can tell, I know. Oh, you're miserable, John.
Am I?
Yes. Marcia has treated you terribly. How you've gone on this long, I'll never understand. But I love you. I'll always love you. Don't you care for me at all?
Yes, Nita. I'll have to confess. I do.
Oh, John. John, darling.
Oh, it won't work. In the first place, I'm married to Marcia. In the second place, I'm older than you. In the third place,
yes?
I'm in a spot. A very ticklish spot. I can't afford to, break off with Marcia.
What do you mean?
I owe a certain man $4,000. I must pay him by this coming Saturday, or I might go to jail.
What? Oh, he couldn't do that.
Yes, he could. And he might even take me for a ride.
Kill you?
Yes.
Oh, John. Did you tell Marcia?
That was the cause of her relapse.
She refused?
Absolutely.
Well, that only proves she doesn't love you. She's mean and hateful. Sometimes I think she's insane.
Do you? Maybe she is.
You mustn't give up hope, John. You'll get the money.
How?
There'll be a way, John. There must be a way. We'll make a way.
Make a way? What do you mean?
I'm not sure. But we'll find it.
Then, a short while later, the housekeeper, Mrs. Simmons, comes to Marcia's room to take away the luncheon tray.
Did you enjoy your lunch, Mrs. Evans? I thought I'd pick up the tray and dishes. Well, ice cream. Where'd you get the ice cream? I didn't serve you any ice cream. Mrs. Abbott, are you asleep? If you'd wanted ice cream, you could have told me. Mrs. Abbott. Mrs. Abbott. Luciana, she's cold. Mrs. Abbott! Mrs. Abbott! She's dead. She's dead. Come here, the police. An ambulance. A doctor.
The police arrived. The ambulance arrived. But Marcia was dead. Quite dead. Why the police were called, only the housekeeper knew. But once the police arrived, they followed it through to an autopsy. Now the officers have returned to the Abbott residence. Captain Barnes is speaking.
You're Mrs. Simmons, the housekeeper?
Yes, that I am.
Mm-hmm. And you're Nita, Mrs. Abbott's sister?
Yes.
And you?
I'm Alan Abbott, John Abbott's brother.
You live here?
I'm visiting here.
I see. Mrs. Simmons, you served lunch to Mrs. Abbott?
I did.
What did you serve?
I served chicken soup, creamed carrots, toast and tea.
And, ice cream?
No.
You didn't serve ice cream?
I did not.
Are you positive, Mrs. Simmons?
I'm positive.
You don't have to shout.
I thought you didn't hear me.
I heard you. Will you two step out of the room for a moment? I want to talk to the housekeeper alone.
Of course, Captain.
Certainly.
Mrs. Simmons, how long have you been with Mrs. Abbott?
You mean, how long have I worked here?
That's right.
Too long.
Didn't you like it here?
I don't want to talk about it.
Didn't you like Mrs. Abbott?
I certainly did. She was so good to me. I worshipped her. Poor thing, poor thing.
You came here the day she married her first husband, didn't you?
Yes, and they were so happy. It was very pleasant here then.
You mean there came a time when things ceased to be pleasant?
Yes, that's what I mean.
When did things take on a change?
After she married John Abbott.
How long after she married Abbott did her health begin to fail?
It was about a year.
Did they quarrel often?
Yes, quite a bit.
What about?
Well, about money. Mr. Abbott didn't have a cent when they were married. And he's never earned a cent nor done a day's work since. He was always gambling, always losing money. Her money. Then she got disgusted and clamped down on him.
And shortly after that, she began to fail.
Yes, and she changed completely. She became morose and cranky. You just can't realize what a change there was in her unless you knew her.
How long has Alan Abbott been visiting here?
Visiting?
Mm-hmm.
He's way past the visiting stage, the lazy loafer. Been living here over 6 months.
How long has Nita been here?
She came to live here over a year ago. Mrs. Abbott asked her to stay with her when she first took ill. And that was a big mistake.
Mistake? To have her sister here? What do you mean?
I'm talking too much. I don't want to get mixed up in this. I'm leaving this house at once.
I'm afraid you're going to stay right here, Mrs. Simmons, until I tell you to go.
You mean I'm arrested?
We call it detained, until this is cleared up.
What are you doing here anyway? Why are you snooping around asking so many questions?
Why did you call the police when you found the body?
I don't know. I was just excited.
You didn't call the doctor. You called the police. What was in your mind to cause you to call the police instantly?
I don't know. I really don't know.
She's had bad attacks before, and you always call Dr. Manning. But this time you called us. Why?
I don't know.
Then I'll tell you, because you knew she'd been murdered.
Murdered? I didn't.
Then you must have suspected it. Who'd you suspect her, Aslan?
No.
Alan?
No.
Neither?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Then it must have been you who served the ice cream.
I didn't serve ice cream.
But it was served. And there was arsenic in it.
Arsenic?
Rat poison. Mrs. Abbott was murdered.
I knew it.
Her husband did it.
No, she did it. Nita did it.
Why?
Because she was madly in love with John. She wanted Marcia out of the way. I knew she was a devil.
Bring them all in, Marty. Nina, your sister was served ice cream at lunch in this dish. Mrs. Simmons says she didn't serve it.
Well, what about it?
I'll ask you that. What do you know about it?
Why, I...
Wait a minute. What's the ice cream got to do with it?
I'll tell you in a moment. Did you serve that ice cream here?
You don't have to answer that, Nita.
Did you?
Yes. Yes, I did serve it.
What did I tell you?
Where did you get the arsenic?
What? Arsenic?
Mrs. Abbott died of arsenical poisoning. This dish contains arsenic. Where did you get it?
Why should I do such a thing?
You had a motive. You were in love with John and wanted your sister out of the way.
That isn't true.
You bought the ice cream and you served it.
I did not buy it.
Then where did you get it?
I don't know.
You'd better tell. You're in a tough spot.
Wait a minute. Nita did not do it. She couldn't have done such a thing. I bought the ice cream. I gave it to Nita to serve to Marcia.
And you put the arsenic in it. Nita would never do that. She isn't the kind. John did it. And he had a motive.
What motive?
He gave Mike Flynn a rubber check for $4,000. Mike gave him till Saturday or he'd turn it over to the DA. Marcia refused to help John out, so he killed her.
Is that true about the check?
Yes, but I didn't kill Marcia. That's ridiculous.
Of course it is. And if anybody had a motive to kill her, it was Alan.
What?
Yes. Alan was in love with me. Asked me to marry him. But I knew what was back of it.
Nita.
He wanted to marry the money he knew Marcia would leave to me.
I did not.
I told him I loved John and turned him down. He was jealous of John. If Alan poisoned Marcia, he figured John would be blamed and that would put John out of the way. He put the arsenic in the ice cream. He must have.
He's crazy, absolutely crazy.
She's not the only one. The housekeeper accuses Nita. Nita accuses Alan. Alan accuses John. And both men trying to protect Nita. But I've got a piece of evidence that definitely pins it on one of it. How about it, Sergeant? What'd you find?
I checked the box of rat poison we found in the pantry. Purchased yesterday noon, and the poison register was signed by John Abbott. The druggist confirmed it.
All right, John?
Yes, I bought it, but I swear I'm innocent.
The evidence is all against you, John. And as to Nita's part in it, well, it'll all come out in the trial.
But wait. It isn't over yet. The door bursts open and Dr. Manning rushes in, waving a special delivery letter just received at his office. Read it, Doctor.
Listen to this. John doesn't love me. He cares for nothing but my money. He's in a spot over a bad check, a spot in which he deserves to be. Alan is no good and pretends to be in love with Nita, but he really wants to marry her for the money he thinks I'll leave her. My sister is in love with my husband, which disgusts me. If I leave my property to her, John will marry her at the first opportunity. This house is filled with nothing but avarice and greed. I can bear it no longer. The thought of hanging on to life under these conditions for another year is intolerable. A few minutes ago, I slipped down the back way and found some rat poison. Removed a portion of it, slipped back to my room, and mixed it with the ice cream. Enclosed is a short will, witnessed by Mrs. Simmons. I leave all my property, personal and real, to the children's home at Montebello. This will end the disgusting situation created by my late husband's fortune. Signed, Marcia Howard Abbott.
Well, there you are. None of them killed Marcia, but they certainly had the motive. Now, all of them are left to face the world penniless. And there's still a $4,000 check standing between John and Nita. Too bad.
CBS has presented The Whistler. Original music for this production was composed and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. The Whistler is written and directed by J. Donald Wilson and originates from Columbia Square in Hollywood. Next week, same time,
I, the Whistler, will return to tell you another unusual tale. Good night.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Thank you for listening to HOJO Radio. We'll be back again very soon.